president has been working, challenge has been come up with how we can intervene so that farmers, fishermen, and those in the animal husbandry can resume economic activity.
Nigeria will not experience food crisis despite impact of flooding on agriculture. The National Food Security Council assures Nigerians.
The key factors considered by committee.
MPC reduces monetary policy rate to 11.5% to ensure growth in the economy.
We are therefore directing all our members to get back to operations with immediate effect.
NATO suspends strike after consultation. Plus, road carnage. FRSC re-strategizes to meet UN goal. Welcome to NTA Network News tonight. I'm Ian V. John. Adiola Akomiakere will be reading with me from our Lagos Network Center. Thanks for joining us. Tonight, we begin from the State House, where issues relating to ecology and development dominated discussions as President Muhammadu Buhari granted audience to the Governor of Kwara State, Abdurrahman Abdulrazak. State House correspondent Adamu Sambu reports that the President also received Governor Abdullahi Umar Ganduje of Kano State.
The weekend we had huge rainstorm that destroyed about 5,000 houses in the state capital.
Governor Abdurrahman Abdulrazak told President Muhammadu Buhari that there was also huge flooding in Kwara North and the banks of River Niger, as a result of which nearly 15,000 people were displaced and thousands of hectares of farmlands submerged. Kwara State, he said, needs urgent federal government intervention.
We were expecting bumper harvest this season, especially with the federal government's intervention in the agricultural sector. But unfortunately, we are going to lose this harvest, and we'll hope we'll be able to gain ground. We also thank the federal government that they gave us a 10,000 hectare irrigation scheme to boost our dry season farming. That project is on course now. Already NEMA is on ground in Kwara, taking data. So we believe the circle will be shorter this time.
He enumerated blankets, buckets, food, building materials, as well as agricultural inputs as things urgently needed to help the people recover.
We're talking about anywhere between 5 to 10 billion naira in losses.
He said the Kwara State government has started doing the little it can under the prevailing situation by distributing palliatives to those in need. Governor Abdullahi Umar Ganduje of Kano State also came calling on a mission to say thank you to President Muhammadu Buhari for supporting Nigeria's Center of Commerce in battling the COVID-19 pandemic.
I have to thank Mr. President for assisting Kano State to the 5 billion naira, and that has assisted the state. We opened 5 testing centers which are functional. The curve is now flattened. We carry out testing maximally, but at the same time, the positivity ratio is very low. So it's dying down almost on daily basis.
Governor Ganduje also briefed the president on his efforts at achieving and maintaining the desired peace enterprise across Kano State.
Kano is calm, is relatively peaceful, and Kano is one of the most peaceful states in the country as of today.
He said apart from constituting a joint task force on security, his administration also constructed what he called security dormitories on major roads to promptly respond to emergencies. A military training ground and Ruga settlement within Falgore Forest were also established, so also community policing as well as interreligious and inter-ethnic committees as part of efforts to maintain peace, harmony and security. From the State House, Adamu Sambu, NTA News.
And still in the State House, the National Food Security Council is reassuring Nigerians that the nation will not experience any food crisis in spite of the devastating impact of the recent flooding in parts of the country on agriculture. Vice Chairman of the Council and Governor of Kebbi State, Abubakar Atiku Bagudu, gave the assurance while briefing newsmen after the 5th technical meeting of the Council members in the State House, where Adamu Sambu again reports.
Meeting presided over by the Chief of Staff to the President, Professor Ibrahim Gambari, was convened to critically analyze available information and data on Nigeria's food situation and what needs to be done urgently towards responding to the threat posed by the recent flooding in parts of the country on agriculture. Consequently, NEMA, Banks of Agriculture and Industry, NISAL, and Nexim Bank, who have important roles to play in the nation's drive towards achieving food security, were invited for briefing. This is part of efforts towards creating synergy and collaboration needed to unlock the desired funding for the agricultural sector. The meeting also looked at how the federal government responded to the 2018 flood disaster as a model for possible adoption in response to the prevailing situation.
Is there going to be a food crisis? No. By God's grace, there will be none. The flooding is devastating. But Mr. President has been working, as you can evidently see from last week to today. We are having another meeting because that's what bothers Mr. President more than anything else. How does he deliver to Nigerians? And since last week and earlier, the challenge has been come up with how we can intervene so that farmers, fishermen, and those in the animal husbandry can resume economic activity as quickly as possible.
On the issue of prices of crops, even in Abuja, you will not see the price drop immediately. Prices started dropping at the local markets. Those that have existing stock will not lose money and drop the price for you. They will wait until they exhaust the stock or there is a lot of this produce in the market. Then they will be forced to drop the prices. So the crop have started coming up, getting cheaper and being transported. It takes time, depending on how fast the traders are bringing the cheaper stock into the market.
The roadmap and recommendations from the meeting will be forwarded to President Muhammadu Buhari for consideration. On his part, Governor Simon Lalong of Plateau State gives an update on the battle against the COVID-19 pandemic in his state.
We have not had any death. And then drastic reduction in even people that are supposed to be taken to isolation centers. We are able to address that by identifying areas where we see concentration of the disease and also control the spread.
Governor Lalong said the more testing, the better for Nigeria as it strives towards controlling and containing the global pandemic. From the State House, Adamu Sambu, NTA News.
The Secretary General of the African Continental Free Trade Area Secretariat, Wamkele Mene, has called on Nigeria to accelerate the ratification of the treaty as other countries look up to it for leadership. He was speaking when he visited the leadership of the Senate. Ignatius Nkwo reports.
Nigeria is the second country Wamkele Mene is visiting since assumption of office in February of this year, and a meeting with members of the National Assembly became handy. The African Continental Free Trade Zone Agreement is aimed at inclusive growth and overall regional integration of the continent. This meeting was to remind Nigeria's apex law-making body that the aim of the free trade zone can only be realized if Nigeria plays a leading role in the trade arrangement.
We are hoping and looking forward to Nigeria's leadership. It is because all of these visions that we expressed in the Lagos Plan of Action, in the Abuja Treaty, started here.
He observed the challenge African manufactured goods will face as a result of transshipment of goods from other continents, but explained that measures will be put in place to address it. Deputy Leader of the Senate, Ajayi Boniface, restated Nigeria's resolve to regional integration.
The Senate and the National Assembly are ever committed to providing legislative support. The initial momentum from the signing of the agreement needs to be continued for a greater continental impact to benefit Africans both on the continent and outside it.
The visiting team had met with some top government officials and will be meeting with the private sector before departing the country. From the National Assembly, Ignatius Nkwo, NTA News.
In other news, with the lingering uncertainties in the global economy associated with the COVID-19 pandemic and the volatilities in oil prices, the Central Bank of Nigeria Monetary Policy Committee ended its meeting with a call on the monetary authorities to reduce lending rates so as to encourage small businesses in the country. Chimobi Walter Unaji now reports.
Monetary policy rates in an attempt to reinvigorate the Nigerian economy as the outlook on broader economy remains largely uncertain. The Monetary Policy Committee, after its fifth meeting for the year, decided to reduce the key rates by 100 basis points to 11.5%, while placing the asymmetric corridor at plus 100 and minus 700 basis points around the MPR to help ensure liquidity and growth in the economy. While reading the communique, the CBN Governor, Godwin Emefiele, said the MPC also resolved after divergent votes to retain the liquidity ratio at 30%, while cash reserve ratio CRR was left unchanged at 27.5%.
The key factors considered by committee as likely to exert upward pressure on domestic prices in the near term includes the prevalence of security challenges in the country, adverse weather conditions causing flooding in some farming regions, the increase in petroleum pump price, deregulation in the electricity tariffs, low crude oil prices, and exchange rate adjustment.
The Governor, Godwin Emefiele, while blaming the fall in Purchasing Managers' Index on lockdown measures, noted that decision of the committee to change the controlling rates was informed by the need to observe the impact of steps already taken under a massive intervention plan to save the economy from COVID-19 pressures. In Abuja, Chimobi Walter Naji, NTA News.
The federal government has set up an 11-member ministerial task force to recover all unpaid revenue from lottery operators and permit holders in Nigeria from 2015 to date. Minister of Special Duties and Intergovernmental Affairs, George Akume, inaugurated the task force in Abuja with a 2-month deadline for the assignment. Mitari Ikbe reports.
Lottery operators in the country are said to have been evading remittance of statutory taxes and shortchanging government of revenue, running into billions of naira annually. Now, the Minister of Special Duties, George Akume, is moving to support the National Lottery Commission to take measures that will end the trend.
Definitive measures must be taken.
A special task force being mandated to put an end to the colossal loss of revenue in the lottery industry.
And charge them to determine what funds are owed to government from 2015 to 2020 and facilitate the immediate recovery of such funds to government coffers.
If, say, for instance, we start this implementation by fourth quarter of next year on the Central Monetary Platform, I can say that it's before the year is over, and I'm being conservative, before next year is over, we'll make about 8 billion. And the following years, we'll be making at least minimum of 20 billion for the next 2-3 years.
The task force, chaired by the Permanent Secretary, Ministry of Special Duties and Intergovernmental Affairs, William Alu, has representatives from the National Lottery Trust Fund, the Nigeria Police Force, and the EFCC among members. In Abuja, Mitaire Ikben, NTA News.
Now talking politics, the Independent National Electoral Commission has presented certificate of return to Governor Godwin Obaseki and Philip Shaibu of the People's Democratic Party, PDP, signifying the official recognition of the pair as the governor-elect and deputy governor-elect of Edo State following their victory at the September 19 election. Agatha Egwari Ojo has details.
I hereby certify that Godwin Noge Hase Obaseki of People's Democratic Party has been elected to the office of Governor of Edo State. INEC National Commissioner in charge of Edo, Delta, Bayelsa and Rivers states, May Agbamuche Mbu, presented the certificates of return to Governor Godwin Obaseki and his deputy Philip Shaibu. She urged the governor to see his victory as an opportunity to usher in a new beginning for the state. We have always maintained that a successful conducted election is a collective effort, and for so it has proven to be.
This ceremony is just another fulfillment of the provisions of the law.
Governor Obaseki promised to use his second term in office to work more for the people. The governor commended the electoral umpire, the police and other security agencies for their efforts before, during and after the election.
Ability of INEC to view results as the counting has taken place in the units is one innovation that we will implore INEC to insist on and improve.
He called on aggrieved members to join hands with him to develop the state. In Benin, Agatha Egwariojo, NTA News.
Similarly, the Benin Traditional Council has expressed gratitude to President Muhammadu Buhari for ensuring a free, fair and violence-free election in Edo State. The council, on behalf of the Oba of Benin, also appreciated all security agencies, the political parties and candidates for honoring the peace accord of the National Peace Commission headed by General Abdusalam Abubakar, as well as the Independent National Electoral Commission for the peaceful and successful process. A statement by the Secretary to the Benin Traditional Council, Frank Irabo, while congratulating Governor Godwin Obaseki on his re-election, reaffirmed the Council's commitment to remain non-partisan and urged the people to support the government in achieving its developmental strides. Meanwhile, the President's Court of Appeal, Justice Monica Dogba Mesem, has established the Election Petitions Tribunal Secretariat and accordingly constituted a panel in respect of the governorship election conducted in Edo State. The Chief Judge of Edo State, Justice Edigin, has equally approved the use of Edo High Court Complex Election Petition Court Hall, Sapler Road, for the tribunal sitting. A statement by the Court Secretary, Sunday Martins, says the Secretariat is now open while all inquiries are to be directed to the Secretary. FG gets thumbs up for improved humanitarian access in Northeast. Details in the second part of tonight's news. Do stay.
My tailor no be your mate. He don't dey for your grade. If he knock you agbada, your tailor go dey hell. Anytime I want to celebrate, he go show the cloth, he no dey late. He dey sweet me like a chocolate. My tailor no dey disappoint. Tailor we go Harvard University. If they knock me back up. You no go the job like a baka. If you see my tailor, tell her say I dey tailor, oh that oh baby, tailor, oh that oh baby. See you get it from fashion knowledge. Okay, my tailor is a big passion. Tailor, oh that oh baby. Yeah. My tailor no be your mate. Tailor, oh that oh baby. Tailor, oh that oh baby. My tailor no dey your lane, he no dey delay. If he knock your shokoto, your tailor go dey lambo. He no dey forget your trouser, he no dey waste time. He dey finish working for state, if all no dey sago. My tailor no dey disappoint. Tailor we go Harvard University.
Make that switch today and enjoy all calls at 11 kobo per second. Free data on every recharge and double data for 3 months on the network with the widest 4G coverage.
Airtel, the smartphone network. At Elizade Autoland, we don't just sell quality, we build quality. JAC Motors, assembled in Nigeria by Elizade Autoland. Increasing high demand for fleets of JAC Motor brands by members of the public and private sectors. JAC Motors are clearly built with one purpose in mind. They are built to serve. Elizade Autoland, sole distributor of JAC Motors in Nigeria.
If you run mad, we know waiting cause am. Every time na this phone. Have you gone to buy more units for light? Give me this phone. Ha! They don't finally get you. Enter store, you go see one pink nylon. Bring and come. If you try am. Now that chicken where they use corner look me. Now I want to. That one.
Oh! So now why you send me message when no get be this? Shate. Make yourself begin to enjoy credit and data. Berekete.
Introducing Berekete. Activate a new Glow SIM and get 600 Naira free credit plus 700% bonus on every recharge and up to 100% bonus on data plans. Find your first with Berekete. Glow Unlimited.
Good afternoon. I want this.
Okay, sir, but why not go for this bigger screen? The resolution is better too, but more expensive.
I will spend more and I will go for this.
Johnny, I am your future self, and as you can see, our future looks great. Don't ruin it by spending indiscriminately. Splurge a little, but think about our tomorrow. Save more for later.
Sorry, I will save money and go for this.
Save more for later by adding voluntary contributions to your retirement savings account with Stanbic IBTC Pension Managers. Call 01-2716,000 to open the Stanbic IBTC Pension account today. Stanbic IBTC Pension Managers, a member of Standard Bank Group.
Interministerial Committee for the celebration of Nigeria's 60th independence anniversary, the Secretary to the Government of the Federation, Boss Mustafa, invites you to the following events. Thursday, 24th September, World Press Conference, venue, Obasanjo Hall, Federal Secretariat, Phase 2, time 3 p.m. Friday, 25th, public lecture, venue, National Mosque Conference Hall, time 10 a.m. Special Jumat prayers, 1 p.m. at the same venue. Sunday, 27th, Interdenominational Church Service, National Christian Center, Abuja, time 3 p.m. Members of the public can join the church service virtually by logging on to the YouTube channel of the OSGF at Official OSGF NG. Monday 28th, launch of the National Ethics and Integrity Policy as well as Integrity Award by Mr. President to commemorate the 20th anniversary of ICPC. Venue, State House, Presidential Villa, Abuja, time 10 a.m. Historical exhibition, National Press Center, Radio House, Abuja, 3 p.m. Thursday, October 1st, Guard of Honor Anniversary Parade, Eagle Square, Abuja, time 10 a.m. Anniversary theme, Together. Please note, these events are strictly by invitation and all COVID-19 protocols will be adhered to. Chairman, Media and Publicity Subcommittee, announcer. Love it.
Thank you for staying. Amidst international concerns on the activities of terrorist and violent extreme groups in the northeast, the United Nations has commended the federal government's efforts to improve humanitarian support in the region, saying the Buhari administration has taken important steps to improve access to people in need. Lately, some international humanitarian non-governmental organizations, NGOs, have expressed worry on their inability to operate effectively and distribute relief materials in parts of the northeast because of security concerns, especially in some remote areas of Borno State. In a bid to reverse the trend and ensure effective access to vital food supplies, the Humanitarian Affairs Minister, the National Security Advisor, and members of the National Humanitarian Coordination Committee escalated the matter to the presidency. The president then mandated the vice president to work with the committee, governors in the region, and relevant MDAs, including service chiefs, to resolve the matter in conjunction with international NGOs and multilateral agencies operating in the region. In reaction to this intervention and new arrangement, the United Nations Secretariat, in a briefing last week by the Under-Secretary General for Humanitarian Affairs and Emergency Relief Coordinator, Mark Lowcock, to the UN Secretary Council, Security Council said he is pleased to report they have had constructive engagements in recent days with the Nigerian authorities. The federal government has reassured Nigerians that the National Water Resources Bill 2020, currently making its way through the National Assembly, when passed into law, will enhance the Nigeria water sector in line with global best practices. This was the submission of the Information and Culture Minister, Lai Mohammed, and his water resources counterpart, Suleiman Adamu, at a media briefing in Abuja. Anthony Forson reports.
Information and Culture Minister Lai Mohammed gave a background to the bill. He said it is an amalgamation of water resources laws that have been in existence dating back 2004.
The bill provides for professional and efficient management of all surface and groundwater for the use of the people, i.e., for domestic and non-domestic use, for irrigation, for agricultural purposes, for generation of hydroelectric energy, for navigation, for fisheries, and even for recreation. The bill, when passed, will ensure that the nation's water resources are protected, used, developed, conserved, managed, and controlled in a sustainable manner for the benefit of all persons.
To this end, both public and private sector investment will be encouraged. Capacity building will be enhanced to foster good governance, and the establishment of water use and licensing framework for a sustainable financing for water sector development from tariff. However, the bill has generated so much controversy.
Many of those criticizing the bill have never bothered to even read its provisions, thus depending on second-hand information to reach their conclusions.
The Water Resources Minister chronicled the gains inherent in the sector when the bill is passed into law.
The whole idea behind this bill, when all the major stakeholders of the world and following Nigeria's adoption of the concept of integrated water resources management, an international concept of management of water resources all over the world, there was, the water stakeholders in Nigeria felt that there was a need to update the regulations that exist.
He, however, cited dangers being posed by indiscriminate sinking of boreholes across the country.
The Supreme Court has fixed the 27th of November for ruling on an application asking it to set aside its 2019 judgment ordering Shell Nigeria Development Company to pay damages to some oil-producing communities in Bayelsa State. This came after arguments were taken on a preliminary objection to the application. Femi Okeo reports.
7th of January 2019, the Supreme Court delivered a judgment in a matter against the Shell Petroleum Development Company of Nigeria, ordering the company to pay damages running into hundreds of millions of naira to various oil-producing communities in Bayelsa State. And just as the judgment creditors began to take steps to take benefit of the judgment, Shell, through their counsel, Walola Nupekun, are now back before the Supreme Court to ask the nation's apex court to set aside its judgment. Before taking that application, the communities, through their counsel, Lucius Nwosu, filed a preliminary objection to the application for the setting aside of the judgment, telling the court that the application constitutes a scandalous deliberate abuse and ridicule of the integrity and finality of the Supreme Court of Nigeria. But Chief Walola Nupekun said that the preliminary objection had nothing in it to show that the Supreme Court had no jurisdiction to entertain his application. The Supreme Court will now, on the 27th of November, decide if the preliminary objection has merit or whether to go ahead and take the application, urging it to set aside its January 2019 judgment. In Abuja, Femi Okeowo, NTA News.
And away from court, the Nigerian Association of Road Transport Owners has suspended its planned warning strike after reaching an agreement for extension of the implementation of the 45,000 litres petrol tax compliance to January 2021. NATO President Yusuf Lawal Othman says the decision was taken following the intervention of critical stakeholders in the industry. Lydia Sampson reports.
Says it is not unmindful of the federal government's desire to maintain its road networks for utilization by the citizens. According to NATO President Yusuf Lawal Othman, the only bone of contention is the lack of engagement of its members, which is already being addressed with ongoing consultations, which led to the agreement.
Following the intervention of the Group Managing Director of the NNPC and the DG SSS, and the directive that we maintain the status quo, go back to status quo. We are therefore directing all our members to get back to operations with immediate effect while negotiations continue.
He said the grace given will enable its members commence the process of changing their trucks to comply with the government's new directive. As partners in progress, the president says NATO will continue to work closely with government to serve Nigerians to the best of their ability. In Abuja, Lydia Sampson, NTA News.
In honor of her gallantry and supreme sacrifice to her fatherland, the Nigerian Air Force has named a remodeled pilot's crew room at the 115 Special Operations Group, Nigerian Air Force, Port Harcourt, after the first female combat pilot, late flying officer Tolulokbe Arotile, to immortalize her. Chief of Air Staff Air Marshal Sadiq Abubakar inaugurated the building during a one-day working visit to Port Harcourt. Robinson Deratiede reports.
A pilot's crew building has a well-furnished sitting room, a computer room, and bedrooms where pilots can relax and plan the execution of missions. The building was remodeled and named after the late Tolulokbe Arotile in recognition of her sacrifice to the country and to motivate personnel in the course of service. Chief of the Air Staff, Sadiq Abubakar, noted that not less than 12 women, motivated by the role played by the late Tolulokbe, are already undergoing training within and outside the country to join the Nigerian Air Force.
In immortalizing Flying Officer Arotile today, we are not only hoping to honor her memory, but also to further inspire young girls in Nigeria to be motivated to study, work hard, and to pursue their dreams and legitimate aspirations with pride and honor.
Some female colleagues of the late Tolulokbe volunteered comment.
We here as our colleagues will continue to keep the flag flying and will encourage all other females out there, come out, contribute your service to the nation. Arotile is just one of many of us and will continue to give in our best in nation building.
The Chief of the Air Staff also inaugurated a newly constructed 18 by 2 bedroom flats for senior non-commissioned officers and a water treatment plant. In Port Harcourt, Robinson Derataide, NTA News.
Now, looking at safety on our roads, the Federal Road Safety Corps is aligning its operations within the resolution of the 74th session of United Nations General Assembly aimed at achieving 50% reduction in road carnage from 2021 to 2030. Abubakar Usman Akwanga reports that the commitment is part of the Corps' top management review session for the last quarter of the year 2020.
Impact of auto crashes on Nigerian road is constituting huge threat to road users, including property worth millions of naira, owing to a number of devastating factors such as deplorable roads, insecurity and violation of traffic rules. This narrative is what the hierarchy of the Corps is changing, with priority to effective security network, passengers' safety, and achieving 2030 global road safety target.
We'll embark on aggressive public allotment, aggressive enforcement, and we'll collaborate with stakeholders. It provides a platform for us to do a review of what we've done, to see where we need to rejig our processes.
Corps Marshal Boboyo Yemi says the Corps is determined to strengthen all processes and programs as captured in Goal 4 of the Corps Corporate Strategic Goals 2020 and beyond.
The Corps is already positioning itself as a lead agency in road safety management to infuse the principles of the second decade of action for road safety 2021 to 2013 to the nation's approaches in road safety management.
The Corps Marshal appealed to Nigerians to avoid unnecessary travels while appreciating the efforts of President Muhammadu Buhari, security agencies and government of Nasarawa State in ensuring the release of adopted FRSC personnel in Abuja. Abubakar Usman Akwanga, NTA News.
Let's pause here in Abuja and let Adiola feed us with more stories from our Lagos Network Center. Adiola.
Thank you, Nyere. The repair works on the Third Mainland Bridge has entered its 9th week as the contractors are preparing for the replacement of bearings under the bridge. Dotsun Oguyemi has the report.
It is the 9th week since the closure of the Third Mainland Bridge as work progresses on the surface of the bridge with the replacement of expansion joints. The first phase of replacing identified joints on the Lagos Island to Oworonshoki bound lane has reached advanced stages, allowing the contractor to shift attention to repairs under the bridge with the replacement of damaged bearings. This is to be done with hydraulic jacks to hold the bridge for the bearings to be replaced.
We have to install 2 jacks every column on top of it and then raise up the deck of the bridge of about ½ centimeter. These things will allow us to remove the old bearings that is damaged and put the new one.
They will remove the old one and put the new bearings. They are all on ground. So we are not slacking. We will make sure that there is no extension of time. That 6 months that we carry out the partial closure will not be extended beyond.
The Federal Controller of Work says the project is well on course for its timely delivery. In Lagos, Dotsun Oguyemi, NTA News.
Now, even as the country is gradually flattening the COVID-19 curve, more attention and sensitization on the virus cannot be overemphasized. This was witnessed when the Federal Road Safety Corps launched kiosks as well as shared public enlightenment flyers to the motoring public in Lagos. Imolia Yotokede has the details.
Lagos State, the epicenter of the coronavirus pandemic, is still experiencing daily recorded cases among other states in Nigeria. Good health and hygiene, maintenance of social distancing, and the use of face masks, especially in public, have been stressed as some of the COVID-19 protocols to beat the virus as a way of curbing the spread of COVID-19, thereby reducing the number of lives lost daily to the deadly virus while reducing road traffic crashes. The Federal Road Safety Corps, in collaboration with a non-governmental organization, launched a COVID-19 campaign kiosk, 500 pieces of reflective jackets, as well as flyers for public enlightenment in Lagos and Ogun State.
This donation is timely and well appreciated by the Corps. It's coming at a time when the Ember Months campaign have started with the team, driving safe, staying safe. We do not take this donation lightly. We deeply appreciate it, and it's going to be put in good use.
Federal Road Safety, by the nature of their work, they interact with people every day. And we felt they are better positioned to be able to enlighten the public, and that is why this partnership.
The FRSC further appealed to motorists and road users to desist from vices that may put their lives in danger this Ember Months. In Lagos, Imolia Ayotukide, NTA News.
Those are our stories. Another break beckons now before rejoining Inyere in Abuja.
Ọ̀rẹ́ mi máa lọ fọ́, ó
Smartphone Network.
Sensitivity is a short, sharp pain that people experience when they have something hot or cold getting to the nerve of the tooth. If the sensitivity is left alone, it may get worse. Dentists recommend Sensodyne. It's able to calm the nerve of the tooth. The proof's in the results. It works. Sensitivity is a short, sharp pain that people experience when they have something hot or cold getting to the nerve of the tooth. If the sensitivity is left alone, it may get worse. Dentists recommend Sensodyne. It's able to calm the nerve of the tooth. The proof's in the results. It works.
Guess what?
What?
I scored a hat trick today.
Cool.
Wow.
And how did you celebrate?
Just do your hands like this.
And hold your nose like this.
Body odor is caused by germs. That's why you need the new improved Dettol Cool Soap, which protects against 99.9% odor-causing germs with an extra burst of menthol freshness. Dettol, be 100% sure.
It is morning, a new beginning. As you prepare everyone for the day ahead, just anything is not enough. Only you make breakfast special, creamy, tasty, with vitamins and nutrients we need for a delightful, healthy start.
So start your day right with Hollandia Evap. Right nutrients for a healthy breakfast.
Make a load recharge card, I beg. I don't find the money.
Plenty day to win for the 9 Mobile Mega Millions promo. 1 million naira for one person every day for 90 days. 2 smartphones every hour, every day for 90 days. 10 million naira start price today. New customers just come with side or buy a new line, and we go send you free 1 gigabyte plus 500 naira airtime. So make you the recharge 200 naira or more. Make you for the win.
9 Mobile.
Who says we have to go back to normal? What if we choose to be open and say, I will never call my job unimportant again? I refuse to be a stranger in my own living room. I'll lead like a woman, and I stand by every word I say. Make my vote count, make my voice heard today. See, I'll never forget how much stronger we are together. I'll carry that in my heart forever. We'll weather the storm, so I'll be open like never before.
How hot is she?
Maybe a 7. How hot is he?
8.5.
Whoa, how hot is she? Very hot. Pick me, just pick me, baby. Come pick me, girl. Man, I'm all ready for you.
So tasty.
He's so lucky.
Stop being jealous, man.
Mini-Me, taste the fun.
Glad to have you back. President Muhammadu Buhari felicitates with former governor of Imo State, Owele Rochas Anayo Okorocha, on his 58th birthday, joining friends and family to celebrate the consummate entrepreneur and philanthropist whose kindness cuts across the nation. President Buhari shares the moment of joy with political associates of Owele Okorocha, senator representing Imo West Senatorial District in the 9th Assembly. The president believes Senator Okorocha's large heart and detribalized outlook on the country will continue to stand him out. He prays Almighty God to grant him longer life and good health to keep serving the country and humanity. Meanwhile, the Progressive Governors Forum has joined all Nigerians to celebrate Owele Rochas Okorocha, Senator representing Olu Zone of Imo State and former chairman of the Progressive Governors Forum on his 58th birthday. The forum's chairman and governor of Kebbi State, Abubakar Atiku Bagudu, in a statement, acknowledged and commended his leadership, vision and commitment to a united, prosperous Nigeria under the leadership of the APC and a founding member of the forum and chairman between November 2013 and May 2019. Similarly, the APC governors felicitate with Senator Oluremi Tinubu, wife of the APC national leader Asiwaju Bola Ahmed, on her 60th birthday, describing her as one who represents a unifying and rallying point for all, particularly members of the Progressive family. President Muhammadu Buhari has also felicitated with the Deputy Governor of Plateau State, Professor Sonny Chiodem. on the occasion of his 70th birthday. The president, in a statement, described the renowned scholar and author as an achiever and distinguished grassroots politician, urging him to remain committed in contributing to the development of his state under the All Progressives Congress and continue to be a role model as a former university teacher and vice-chancellor. Similarly, Governor Samuel Lalong also celebrates his deputy, Professor Theoden, at 70, describing him as an achiever and accomplished gentleman. Governor Lalong said the celebrant has distinguished himself as a scholar of repute, university administrator and patriotic politician who has exhibited high sense of diligence, loyalty and excellence in all assignments. Away from field stations now, Secretary to the Government of the Federation, Boss Mustafa, says the federal government will work closely with federal lawmakers from Adamawa State to attract more dividends of democracy to the state towards improving the living conditions of indigents. The SGF, who stated this when he met with members of Adamawa APC caucus in the National Assembly, urged all party members in the state to close ranks and pull together for APC to regain control of the state.
Adamawa is predominantly an APC state, and we've learned from some few missteps that we took, and going forward we are going to address those things. In terms of collaboration with the leadership of the National Assembly, we want to ensure that henceforth whatever we do back at home has some elements of ownership. And we also looked at the spectrum of empowering our people and also creating capacity for them. And
to see how we can work together, synergize together with the executive, to see how we can collaborate and ensure that at least before we go into election 2023, we are firm and really ready for that.
The federal lawmakers were accompanied by members of Adamawa APC ESCO during the courtesy visit to the SGF. And on health, beyond declaring Nigeria a polio-free country by the World Health Organization, health workers have been reminded that a victory can be sustained by strengthening all routine immunization services. Emmanuel Ayimiro reports that the Ministry of Health, Dr. Osage Hanire, gave this advice at a polio-free eradication celebration in Abuja, while reiterating government's determination to eradicate other diseases in the country.
After the milestone achievement, a new task was placed before the health sector by the World Health Organization, which required all children under 5 years to be vaccinated against preventable diseases. Meeting this task is another challenge that the Minister of Health, Dr. Osage Hanire, says is possible if resources are dedicated especially to high-risk areas.
We are working on strengthening the primary health care, on restructuring it, and for that we need to work very closely, very closely with the states, with the local governments, with the communities, and with the public media.
We will not rest on our laurels to ensure that necessary capacity is built.
The National Primary Healthcare Development Agency is already working towards declaring call for the establishment of at least one functional primary healthcare center in every ward in Nigeria.
So we're glad that because of these resources provided by President Muhammadu Buhari, we'll be able to deliver quality primary health care for all Nigerians.
The ministry should dispense with the current posture of apartheid and embrace everybody, treat everybody properly, and reduce crisis.
To encourage more dedication to the fight against preventable diseases, awards were given to deserving individuals. Emmanuel Ayemiro, NTA News.
The message of paying proper attention to children as well as adequate care for their hygiene and development was what the Federal Ministry of Women Affairs took to indigent women of Ushafa in Buhari Area Council of the FCT. The Minister, Pauline Tallinn, also flagged off distribution of diapers to women in the 6 area councils of the FCT. The report.
The burden of childbearing can be compared to none, and when the child finally arrives, child upbringing becomes another hurdle to cross, as most women find it almost difficult to cater for the basic needs of their children. Diaper is one of such needs. You will agree with me. It is against this backdrop that the Federal Minister of Women Affairs took baby care items such as diapers to indigent women of Oshafa in Buhari Era Council of the FCT.
Child health is all-embracing as it includes every area of a child's life and has a profound impact on the future development of our children, which means more care should be given to a child as it represents a phase of life with great potentials for them to grow and develop.
The distribution is to cut across the 6 area councils of the Federal Capital Territory.
Let's take a quick break now. The network news continues shortly.
Life. The entire family of Anyangu Amadi Mbata Akwara of Umudike Ezogba Emekuku in Owerri North Local Government Area of Imo State announces the exit of our matriarch, Ezinne Catherine Eberebulam Anyangu Ni Ugoji. She lived 92 years. Burial arrangement. Thursday, 24th September 2020. Service of songs at her residence, Umudike Ezogba Emekuku. Time 7 p.m. Friday, 25th September 2020. Body leaves Holy Rosary Hospital, Emekuku, to Our Lady of Mount Carmel Catholic Parish, Emekuku. Time 9 a.m. Funeral Mass at Our Lady of Mount Carmel Catholic Parish, Emekuku, Owerri, Imo State. Time 10 a.m. Interment follows immediately after Mass at her son's residence, Umwapara Ezogba Emekuku, for family only. Time 1 p.m. Sunday, 27th September 2020. Outing Mass at Our Lady of Mount Carmel Catholic Parish, Emekuku, Owerri, Imo State. Time 9:15 a.m. May her gentle soul rest in the bosom of our Lord. Amen. Reginald Anyangu, son, for the family.
With total submission to God Almighty, the family of Ntufamide Rukunasum announces the passing away of their father, husband, brother, uncle, cousin, and friend, late barrister Honorable Ntufamide Rukunasum, on July 21st, 2020. Obsequies, Wednesday, 23rd of September 2020, opening of Morning House at his residence, plot 90, Block D, Etagbo Layout, Port Town, Calabar. Saturday, 26th of September, funeral and memorial service at Usangiso Memorial Presbyterian Church, Akim Port Town, Calabar, at 11 a.m. preceded by lying in states at various points. Interment follows immediately. Announcer, Elder Mrs. Margaret Edet Assam, wife, Lieutenant, Nigerian Navy Assam Ifiumasam, son, for the bereaved family.
Welcome back. A presidential delegation led by Minister of Education Adamu Adamu has condoled with the government and people of Borno State over the demise of first-class emirs of Bama and Biu. Ministers of State for Agriculture and that of Works, Mustafa Baba Shehuri and Abubakar Aliyu, as well as the Senior Special Assistant to the President on Media, Garba Shehu, are among the presidential delegation to Borno. Maimuna Garba reports.
The delegation came to Maiduguri at the instance of President Muhammadu Buhari while condoling Governor Babagana Umara Zulum over the deaths of emirs of Biu and Bama, described their loss as a tragedy. Leader of the presidential delegation, who is also the Minister of Education, Adamu Adamu, while presenting the president's condolence message, acknowledged and appreciated the late emir's contributions towards peaceful coexistence amongst their people.
The exemplary leadership in the field of adversity is worthy of emulating by their successes. As we all mourn the death of these emirs, I pray Almighty Allah to accept their ibadah, forgive and admit them into Al-Jannah.
The minister also commended Governor Babagana Umara Zulum for his commitment, courage, and devotion in trying to end the insurgency in the state, stressing that the governor's effort has given hope to the people of Borno and Nigerians at large. Governor Babagana Umara Zulum thanked the president for the condolences.
We are coming here today. It shows a very important mark to us in the history of Borno State, especially the president himself. In addition to the telephone conversation that he had with us, he sent a powerful delegation to condole us. May Almighty Allah in His infinite wisdom reward him abundantly.
Governor Babagana Umara Zulum had used the opportunity to condole the Minister of Education over the death of his mother and the Minister of State for Works on the death of his sister. The President's condolence letter for the Shehu of Borno was also presented to the Governor. In Maiduguri, Maimuna Garba, NTA News.
Former President Goodluck Jonathan has condoled with Zawzaw Emirate and the Kaduna State government over the death of Emir Shehu Idris. Suleiman Abdullahi Rigachukwu reports that the Director General of NTA, Yakubu Ibn Muhammad, represented by Executive Director of News, Muhammad Labo, was also in Zaria on a condolence visit.
President Goodluck Ebele Jonathan, Senate President Ahmad Lawan, Speaker House of Representatives Femi Bajabiamila, Governor of Zamfara State Bello Muhammad, and former Minister of Defense General Theophilus Danjuma are among prominent Nigerians who visited to register their condolences at Zawzaw Emirate.
We pray that Almighty Allah will receive his soul and will provide us with another leader that will lead the whole of the Emirates well, the way our late Emir did.
Director General Nigerian Television Authority Malam Yakubu Ibn Muhammad, represented by Executive Director News Muhammad Labo, delivered the authority's message.
He was a great and respected monarch who led his people with zeal and vigor for a record 45 years. His Highness during his reign exhibited sturdy virtues that impacted positively on his domain. The NTA will not forget in a hurry the development he brought to NTA Zaria, the entire Zaria community in particular and Kaduna State in general.
NTA's leading role in projecting the good image of Zaria and the Zawzaw Emirate Council in particular was applauded by the Emirate. From Zaria, Suleiman Abdullahi Rigachukwu, NTA News.
Let's now take a quick peep at the weather prospect for Wednesday.
Glad you can join us. We expect respite in weather activities over the north and central parts of the country. However, a few thunderstorms are probable over parts of Yola, Benin, and Ondo of the inland cities. And for the coastal parts, Port Harcourt, Delta, Yenagoa, Akwa Ibom should expect some thunderstorms. These weather activities are expected during the morning hours. Further into the day, chances of thunderstorms are likely over southern Borno, Adamawa, Taraba, Gombe, and Plateau, and over the inland of the southwest, parts of Oshogo, Ibadan, and Akure, and also the coastal regions should expect some thunderstorms and rains. I'll leave you with the temperature forecast. I am Akami Samarda. Thanks for watching.
To speak against it until it comes to an end. Rape is evil. And that's Network News tonight. Many thanks for being a part of it. Good night.
There's the start. And promises to Shara. Winds up that right hand. Archbishop of basketball, goal! He hung on that net like a stalk up a tree.
NTA Sports 24 brings you all sports, all time and all day. Tune in to watch NTA Sports 24 on Star Times Channel 270, StarSat on Channel 434 and Free TV on Channel 731. NTA Sports 24, where sports thrive.
NTA. You can't beat the rich.
This is the network service of the NTA. NTA TV College Jos, an affiliate of Ahmadu Bello University Zaria, is currently admitting students for its ordinary diploma programs in television journalism, television production, and television engineering. Interested candidates are advised to obtain relevant information concerning eligibility at our website at www.ntatvc.edu.ng or marketing department of any NTA station nationwide. For further information, contact Assistant Director, Marketing, NTA TV College Jos on 0803-314-4383 or the Academic Office of the College on 0806-980-9807. Announcer, Registrar.
Yes, that's the painful effect of what corruption costs you. But what does corruption cost us all? Watch Bad Guys on NTA Network, 6 p.m. to 6:30 p.m. every Wednesday from the Akin Fadeyi Foundation. Bad Guys. Who are the bad guys? Join us.
Interministerial Committee for the celebration of Nigeria's 60th independence anniversary, the Secretary to the Government of the Federation, Boss Mustafa, invites you to the following events. Thursday, 24th September, World Press Conference, venue, Obasanjo Hall, Federal Secretariat, Phase 2, time 3 p.m. Friday, 25th, public lecture, venue, National Mosque Conference Hall, time 10 a.m. Special Jumat prayers, 1 p.m. at the same venue. Sunday, 27th, Interdenominational Church Service, National Christian Center, Abuja, time 3 p.m. Members of the public can join the church service virtually by logging on to the YouTube channel of the OSGF at Official OSGF NG. Monday, 28th, launch of the National Ethics and Integrity Policy as well as Integrity Award by Mr. President to commemorate the 20th anniversary of ICPC. Venue, State House, Presidential Villa, Abuja, time 10 a.m. Historical Exhibition, National Press Center, Radio House, Abuja, 3 p.m. Thursday, October 1st, Guard of Honor Anniversary Parade, Eagle Square, Abuja, time 10 a.m. Anniversary theme, Together. Please note, these events are strictly by invitation and all COVID-19 protocols will be adhered to. Chairman, Media and Publicity Subcommittee, announcer.
Nigeria is the last African country to be declared free from wild polio, having accounted for more than half of all global cases less than a decade ago. Nigerians have been basking in the euphoria of this achievement, but this didn't come easy. It was as a result of commitment, determination, and the federal government's unrelenting resolve and efforts to win the fight against poliomyelitis. On this episode of Dateline 360, we will take a closer look at the eradication of wild poliovirus in Nigeria after decades of campaign and vaccination. Thank you for joining us once again on Dateline 360. I am Lydia Odije Ochi. With the certification of Nigeria as being free of wild poliovirus, Ebonyi State government is strengthening her health policies to avoid its resurgence. It's to ensure that the feat recorded by the country is maintained. Chinaza John reports.
According to Caroline Mwakbo, a survivor of wild poliovirus, her dream of attaining great heights was shattered after various attempts by her parents to make her work failed. For her, the certification of Nigeria as being free of wild poliovirus is a great relief, as no Nigerian child will again experience the pains she went through. Then, we didn't know that it was polio. My parents took me everywhere to seek for solution until they were told that I won't walk again. I felt so bad because it prevented me from doing all I love to do. If not for the wheelchair, I would have been more miserable. I'm very happy now that finally government has found solution to it. This is the primary healthcare center in Ebonyi local government area where the last case of wild poliovirus was reported in Ebonyi State in 2009. That development made the state government to develop a health policy on the use of community informants through active disease surveillance.
This was because of the sustained immunization activities and polio campaigns and active disease surveillance and use of community informants to ensure that no case was missed. And this was why we were able to sustain the polio-free status of the state from 2009 until Nigeria was finally certified polio-free.
Despite this certification, increased sensitization on other vaccine-preventable diseases and routine immunization remains pivotal to the state government.
We are not going to go to bed or sleep in our oasis because we'll be certified polio-free. We must sustain the same disease surveillance, and we will equally sustain those community informants to ensure that, and remember, because we are still going to continue even the immunization of our children, to ensure that we sustain what we call the herd immunity, because it's because of the immunity already developed against the virus that we've been able to clear, and we must sustain that immunity, and that is why we will still continue polio immunization. And as we do that, we equally look out for what we call the vaccine-derived poliovirus, because there are some of the vaccines can be reactivated and they can present the symptoms of polio.
What we do is that, I would say, if the government will continue for the search and we continue even the immunization, the oral drug, until even now that we are declared free, if the government will don't mind, we can continue, and we continue education. You understand me? We continue education, we should keep educating our populace, just like they do, because what they've told the health officers is, if even though we've been declared free, if you see anybody that presents with any such paralysis, please alert the government. So there should be continuous education of the populace on, in case if you see something like that. That's the simplest way to make sure that we keep existing. Just like when we talk about the Guinea worm, they said if you see a case, report, even though we've been declared free. The same thing applies to polio.
We have to be doing that routine immunization at least. If you are doing it once, supposed to be doing it 2 or twice in a week.
While commending the government for the commitment that led to the milestone, some mothers and caregivers advocated for more funding and equipping of hospitals and health centers across the country.
I'm so happy one, that I'm part of the struggle. You know, from 1996 to date, I've been there, I've been struggling, I've been doing all we can to make sure that we get a first floor. So, but as of now, we don't have. We're happy that it has come and gone.
So we are quite happy, but that is the product of working hard.
I feel so happy that polio has been eradicated in Nigeria.
Before Nigeria free wild poliovirus status, Ebonyi State recorded about 20% of all cases in the country, which is why citizens, especially some inmates of St. Vincent de Paul in Abakaliki, who are survivors of the virus, consider the country's polio-free status as a great feat for the health sector.
In Borno State, the campaign against poliomyelitis following the last 3 cases recorded in 2016 was championed by all key players, including security personnel, polio survivors, and traditional institutions who joined hands with the federal and state governments, as well as development partners. Mohammed Ibrahim has the rest of the report.
Following discovery of 3 cases of wild polio virus in Borno in 2016 among children in security-compromised settlements, the federal and state governments, supported by development partners, adopted intensified operations and surveillance in all local government areas, especially the hard-to-reach settlements due to Boko Haram insurgency, which involved not only health personnel but security operatives, civilian JTF, and polio survivors as volunteers.
Physically challenged wato gurgu kenan to muna so gwamnati ta ci gaba da supporting na wannan cutan kuma da manya-manyan mu musamman ma sarakai.
Traditional and spiritual leaders also played critical roles in getting the people at the grassroots to accept vaccines against polio, which the State Primary Healthcare Development Agency also described as the most important factor against the 6 child killer diseases.
We use the same strategy to expand the routine immunization to those areas. Apart from the health facilities, we do outreaches to places at the margins of the security compromised areas. That also culminated in the reduction in the number of vaccine preventable diseases like the measles that we used to see almost every year the previous years in Borno.
Experts such as Professor Emeritus Umaru Shehu describes Nigeria's polio-free certification as a pleasant achievement, considering the fact that a lot of challenges were encountered at the initial stage in getting the polio vaccine accepted.
And obviously that's a lot of benefits to the nation, particularly if you look at the fallout from previous epidemics or outbreaks of polio, particularly when it affected children.
Stakeholders are of the view that to maintain the polio-free status, the country needs to improve on and continue routine immunization coverage with enough protection to newborn children, as well as surveillance against importation of the disease.
So long as our children are going to be born, routine immunization will continue. That is why it is routine.
No, I was of course chairman of the EPI. There's so much demand for certain items for immunization to take root. One, of course, is the vaccine being available, a vaccine which is acceptable, safe, and effective. And then, of course, the method of transporting this, what we call it, cold chain. So these, like Rotary and so on, were very much behind this support.
Muna ta kokari da bulamomi da lawannai da sauran organization da suka goya mana baya akan cewa lalle ayi kokari a gama da wannan abubuwan. To alhamdulillah yau da gobe da ake bada rigakafin nan, to wallahi tallahi mun gode Allah ya kawo mana karshen sa. So nan kuma ba ma fatan cewa nan gaba wani ya take tashi ya samu wannan bangaren harkan cutan polio.
Kar mu zauna dan cuta ya kare an ba mu certificate, wannan abu ne na yabawa wanda yau a Afirka a ce Najeriya ta kawo ƙarshen poliomyelitis a Najeriya. Abu ne na yabawa, abu ne na kokari, za mu ce mun gode wa Allah, mun gode wa shugabanninmu. Muna so mu ci gaba da voluntary kuma muna awareness na mutanenmu, because idan ka ce ka yi fighting cuta ya fita karkashin wannan ƙasa ko kuma gari, dole za ku dinga yi kuna bi mutane, kuna fadakar da su da Allah ayi avoiding abu kaza, duk abin da yake kawo wannan effect din.
It is suggested also that strategies adopted in the success story, such as involvement of the polio eradication warriors and acceptance of polio immunization by the people, are key to keeping the wild polio at bay in order to sustain the gains achieved.
Intensified outreaches, routine immunization of oral polio vaccine, as well as active search for cases are continuing in Edo State. It's expected that this level of vigilance will assist in building on the success that has been recorded in the fight against polio. Agatha Eguariojo reports.
Visit of the African Regional Certification Commission in December 2019 to the 3 levels of health facilities for analysis and verification was the first step in the success story in the south region of the country.
We came to the state, look at our documentation in the state, the immunization that we were doing, they made sure that we are doing it the right way, and they chose some facilities in the state too, randomly without letting us know.
Strategies adopted to fight polio, key players say, are promising for other communicable and vaccine-preventable diseases.
There are surveillance officers in the LGs, and also in all the health facilities, we have focal persons that have been trained for this active case search. And the state, what we do in the state, we coordinate their activities, and the activities are still ongoing. Committee that the state put in place is the deputy governor that is the chairman of the committee. So you can see that political will and drive is in the state.
I must at this time commend our military men. The Boko Haram crisis in the northeast and several other related crises, Nigerian health workers was able to get into those difficult terrains. So surveillance activities, immunization activities, all were going on hand in hand.
For these stakeholders, including the Rotary International Nigeria, that has also been in the forefront in the advocacy and action against polio, apart from sustaining awareness campaign, there are important areas to look into.
Our health system needs to be beefed up to strengthen maternal and child health care services. Let's even just deal with the basic things and be sure things are working. If you have a strong primary health care system, that will definitely protect the secondary health and tertiary health care system. Why do I say so? Many people who go to the big hospitals don't have to go there if they have the primary health care system working. That means that we have enough resources to pay attention to the more difficult cases at higher level. Secondly, it means that at the primary health care level, we can spread out the services to difficult to reach areas, including creeks, desert places, savannas, rocky areas where human beings live, and across the routes, that nomadic routes all over the country. They deserve care. And we need to have a mobile healthcare system, therefore, at that primary level. Let's remember that polio is a fecal-oral disease. That means that the virus comes out of an infected person through feces, that is, through stool. It is when water and food are contaminated with the virus that a person is infected. It is therefore closely tied to good hygiene and therefore tied to water and sanitation. Every human being, every family, every community deserves potable water and good sanitation. You cannot achieve good sanitation without sufficient and abundant supply of potable water. It is a basic need for life.
People have asked me, we are still wearing end polio, people are still talking about it. We have to keep talking about it. We keep working towards it, taking action.
We need to do more of surveillance and random sampling to ensure that we reach out to IDP camps.
Most of our people believe that when they give birth to children, they just, because they give birth to them at home, they don't want to follow the immunization process. And you see, we fought this polio thing by giving immunization continuously. We always go into the hospitals because one area of our focus is the child maternal care. So when we go to visit the clinics, we make sure we give the children this immunization. So the only way we can sustain is to sensitize our mothers that when they give birth, they need to give these children that polio immunization.
Existence of the paralytic disease anywhere in the world is considered a threat to children 0 to 5 years in any part of the world. So experts say surveillance and dedication to routine immunization top strategies to continue to win the fight against polio.
2 years before the declaration of Nigeria as polio-free in 2016, Kano State government has made remarkable progress in eradicating the acute viral disease. Hadiza Mohammed reports that the will on part of the government, compassion from both traditional and religious leaders to robust surveillance led to the success achieved.
In 2003, the World Health Organization adjourned Nigeria to have the highest number of new poliomyelitis world over, with an estimate of 45% of all confirmed cases globally. Kano State accounted for highest number of this figure due to its non-participation in the sub-national immunization campaign owing to unfounded rumors on safety of the vaccines. All these were, however, once upon a time, as active and collaborative efforts of traditional and religious leaders through constant sensitization campaign recorded a milestone achievement in eradicating poliomyelitis, which saw Kano recording the last case of the disease in July 2014 at Rimi Ward of Sumaila local government area.
In the previous years, when His Excellency the Governor of Kano State, Dr. Abdullah Umar Ganduje OFR, he was so compassionate about this issue of polio eradication, so much so that he used to go out on supervision himself, and then to see things for himself and to resolve issues on the field. It is about tripartite coordination and collaboration to carry out health services in the perspective of routine immunization, where you have the Dangote Foundation, you have the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, as well as Kano State government. They try to now have a basket. In this basket, then it has been put into a ratio. This ratio is disproportionate in nature, so much so that the highest percentage comes to Kano State at the beginning, and it is going to be rolled out over a number of years. 5 years were put into focus, and then for the first year, I think Kano State was to give out 20%, and then the remaining 40% each. But then as the years are rolling out, then the percentage increases to Kano State and then decreases with the other two. So much so that by the year 2018 till this moment, Kano State is now funding routine immunization services at 100% capacity.
We have the people. We live with the people. We know the people. We tell them what to do and what not to do. As a result of what people are saying in terms of my performance, UNICEF had given me this title of polio ambassador force in charge of Kano.
This success story will not also be complete without the mention of Amina Ahmed Tudunwada, a polio survivor who participated actively in the campaign for the total eradication of disease.
By the time they are starting this immunization in Kano, our people not agreeing. So when we reach your house, if you are not agreeing, we are telling you true. Give your children to immunize. Because if any boy, if you be like us, it will never go join army, police, never play football, never into your life. You lost about 85% in your life. Calling Nigerian government to support we polio victim now, because now there is no polio, only we.
Aminu, now an employer of labor, has more than 10 of his peers under his tutelage. To further consolidate on the gains so far recorded and ensure Kano State maintains its polio-free status, government has continued with constant surveillance and sustained collaborative efforts of all implementing partners, as well as upholding the national schedule on immunization. With the milestone achievements recorded in eradicating polio, stakeholders are optimistic that other diseases would as well be a thing of the past.
The vaccination campaign in Nigeria involved huge efforts to reach remote and dangerous places under threat from militant violence. Some health workers even lost their lives in the process. The vaccine campaign was backed by government and a coalition of groups including Rotary International, traditional and religious leaders, school teachers, parents, volunteers, and health workers. Polio Survivors Association said their role had been crucial in persuading people in areas where vaccine was initially rejected to accept the campaign. The health sector globally has been undergoing challenges in recent times, with the federal government and stakeholders rising up to the challenge and conquering, like Ebola, Lassa fever, and now poliomyelitis. Nigeria is already recording lower cases of COVID-19 infections. This also will be conquered with our collective efforts. That concludes this package of the program. Thank you for always tuning in. See you again next week. I remain Lydia Odidiochi. Keep staying safe. God bless Nigeria. Goodbye.
From dusk to dawn, 24 hours a day, NTA International is with you. In your living room, office, and everywhere, anywhere. We provide the company you desire in terms of balanced and up-to-date news, programs, and the best of entertainment. Tune in to DSTV channel 251, GoTV channel 91, Freeview channel 264, or live streaming via www.visiontv.co.uk. Application for iOS or Android. Intelsat 901/332.5 degrees east. You can also see us on Facebook and YouTube for quality content on the go. NTA International, Africa's window to the world.
Nigeria.
My brother, my sister, papa, mama, and pikin. Corona, no big pass us. We go fight time, we go win. As long as we remember to always do the right thing. Wash your hands, love each other, we go win, oh.
Hello, welcome to Tuesday Live. I am Omini Oden. Nigeria's independence in October 1st, 1960 came with so much joy and happiness. Joy and happiness that we became an independent nation and our destiny finally in our hand. However, between 1960 to date, Nigeria has witnessed military interventions and even a change from parliamentary system of government to the presidential system of government. Despite all these challenges, Nigeria had already achieved uninterrupted democratic governance from 1999 to date and has grown from strength to strength as one indivisible country. Scholars and opinion leaders are of the opinion that Nigeria has done well politically and economically with many developmental strides in place. Our challenges as a nation notwithstanding. Tonight on Tuesday Live, we shall focus on Nigeria at 60 challenges and the way forward. In the course of the program, we shall be joining the 75th United Nations General Assembly when President Muhammadu Buhari will be delivering his address on the floor of the General Assembly. First is this background report by Timothy Yusuf.
Nigeria's independence in 1960 ushered in the first republic with Northern People's Congress (NPC), led by Sir Ahmadu Bello, National Council of Nigeria and Cameroon's NCNC, under the leadership of Dr. Nnamdi Azikiwe, Action Group AG, led by Obafemi Awolowo, and Northern Elements Progressive Union (NEPU), with Malam Aminu Kano as its figurehead as dominant political parties. These parties were in control of their regions. The Ahmadu Bello-led NPC was in firm control of the north, the same way Azikiwe's NCNC held sway in the eastern part of the country, while Awolowo's AG was in charge of the western region. The parties did well for their regions in such areas as infrastructure, education and commerce. But there were challenges of nationhood which lie heavily on the regional tendencies of the parties in their individual control. For many political observers, the central government somewhat seemed to subordinate the regions. The first major challenge of journey to nationhood was the 1963 political upheaval and crisis. As the years went by, the first military interregnum came up, during which the political crisis resurfaced, leading the country into civil war. The situation halted the country's political development for a period of 3 years, during which the civil war lasted.
My advice to these young people is please do not take us back to those harrowing days. You probably do not know what it is.
I believe we have fought one civil war too many in this country. So those who experience it will run away from it.
I will urge and advise our younger generation to use talent and brain to sort out problems, not arms.
The military government continued till 1979 through its own checkered reign, which brought in the Second Republic. At the demise of that republic, there was another 15 years of military incursion into the nation's political history, after which democracy resurfaced in Nigeria in 1999 with the Olusegun Obasanjo's administration. From 1999 to date, with President Muhammadu Buhari at the helm of affairs, democracy in Nigeria has had its challenges and vagaries of operations. However, in spite of all this, the experience over the years has shown a ray of hope to Nigerians as a nation that democracy has come to stay, with the people having a greater part of stakeholdership in all sectors of the economy.
We've had our ups and downs, but clearly the future is bright.
A lot has been achieved in the area of political development. An area of economy, we have been able now to start charting a way. There are challenges. We couldn't meet up with Vision 2010. We couldn't meet up with Vision 2020. And the present government under Buhari is now putting us into economic path.
It's been wonderful. Nigeria, like every other nation, has our own challenges, but I see us moving past all of those challenges if we decide to work together as one.
In spite of challenges of nationhood still ahead, Nigerians are, however, confident that the system will work for the good of the people, especially in the face of the landmarks being achieved by the Buhari administration.
Nigerian challenges cannot be solved in one day. We need time. We need patience.
Timothy Yusuf, NTA News.
Timothy Yusuf Bagranda chronicling what it was up to date. Sets the tone for the takeoff of the program tonight, and the focus once again is Nigeria at 60 challenges and the way forwards. It's Tuesday Live, and at some point our phone lines will be displayed on the screen, and if the lines are open and we're told to you, please turn down the volume of the television set to avoid a holdback, and in doing this also go straight to the point and raise issues and questions on the program tonight. Also, you can be part of the conversation through our Twitter handle at Tuesday Live NTA, and as we told you at the beginning of the program, at some point we shall break out to join the live presentation by Mr. President on the floor of the United Nations 75th General Assembly. Well, I have a team of guests. Right here I have General IBM Haruna, former Minister of Information. Good to have you on the program tonight.
Good evening.
Joining us from the Benin Network Center is the Dean Faculty of Arts, University of Benin, Professor Eddie Eragbe. Good to have you on the program.
Good evening.
So tonight I have May Nasara Kogo Umar, lawyer and international affairs commentator. Good to have you on the program.
It's my honor to be with you. Happy Independence, Nigeria.
Also tonight on the program is Mazi Okoro Ijoma. Mazi Okoro Ijoma is a professor of history, joining us from Enugu Network Center. And at some point, we'll have one guest joining us via Zoom. When that guest is ready, we'll join him appropriately. Let's begin. Well, let me begin with General IBM Haruna. 60 years, 70 years as an independent country. Give us your perspective.
And my perspective is that 60 years in the life of a country that is destined to be great and to play a very vital role in world affairs and in carrying societies and humanity forward is not too long a time. And in that time, we've been able to move forward enough to put ourselves in the ranking of great or greater nations, or more advanced or more civilized nations, such that we bear the problems that are being borne by these forerunners of all nations in terms of the challenges we face. But the way forward is to really face the challenges that are arcing to us, that are pertinent to us as a nation. We have the resources, both human and natural. We have the human intelligence to achieve our dreams. And we know the challenges that we have had to face to bring us to the new challenges of today. And I think in the course of our discussion, we will probably itemize these challenges. Essentially, that those challenges that have not allowed us to get up and run, and we're still crawling. But we have the resources and the intelligence. If we exercise the wisdom and the tenacity that is required, we will certainly overcome these problems. But these problems are such that have made us dwarfs instead of giants.
Thank you so much. Kogo, let me veer differently. How did the nation come about before independence, briefly?
Yes, sir. All the problems and the progresses we have harvested during the 60 years, the genesis of the problems and the progress should be traced back to the historical background. If you do not know the history of where you come from, you wouldn't appreciate where you are, why certain things have happened, and you would not appreciate the need for you to reconfigure the dynamics of what you are facing in future. Let me see if within 5-10 minutes I can analyze the history of how Nigeria came
not 10 minutes.
Okay, 5 minutes. 5 minutes. Okay, let me cut it short.
Short, please.
500 years before 1960, for example, there was nothing like we were having fragments of nation states. Efik, Ibibio, Benin Kingdom, Ijo, the Ishakiris, the Kanuris, the Fulanis, the Hausas, the Tives, the Nufes, and what have you. Now, these groups were living in peace and harmony. We are living in peace and harmony despite the fact that you don't have such infrastructural entrenchments we are having today. They were living as brothers and sisters, believing that all of them are from one source, the Adam and Eve. In common brotherhood, you don't hear of any problem whatsoever. As far back as, for example, when you take 1845, as far back as 1845, Benin Kingdom was having diplomatic missions across the world in terms of disposal of its brass products and bronze, as well as West African sub-region generally, especially the northern states, the Hausa and the Kanuri states, through trans-Saharan trade routes. Apart from all these things, you discover that the Portuguese were the first one to start coming. Then, in 1804, two things happened fundamentally. One, there was this jihad of Danfodio, which united the northern states under a caliphate. And there was this expedition sponsored by the British government under Lord Lugard. His first coming was in 1804, then the second coming was in 1806. It was the second coming that eventually saw to his demise when he succeeded in seeing to the trace of the confluence in Lokoja. Now, by 31st of March 1808, the British Parliament passed a legislation which other European countries later on joined, banning slavery and slave trade. But they now turn it back into another thing by trying to acquire colonies through their sea aggrandizement. In 1884 to 1885, there was Berlin Conference, where African nations were put on a plate and then divided among the European nations. Then we saw in 1809 the first arrangements towards the British trying to take over the country, but they did not succeed until around 1889. When,
yeah.
Okay, in short, from 1889 down to 1914, we saw the first attempt to unify Nigeria. It's against the previous attempt whereby you were having only the Lagos colony and the southern protectorates. Royal Niger Company came, they were given the charter to control the shores of the river Niger and Benue. I bet. Fundamentally, it was from 1947 with the Richards Constitution that we started having the real practical constitutional efforts to have a united Nigeria, when attempts were made to unify the southern and the northern protectorate. Earlier on in 1914, there was this amalgamation, but that was the first time when northern Nigeria was given seats in the National Assembly. In other words, the Lagos Legislative Council. They were given seats, and that brought about the problem between the southern part and the northern Nigeria, considering that the big size of northern Nigeria, the population, the mineral deposit, and the rest, so by virtue of which problems started emanating. In 1947, we got Richard's Constitution that talks about the need for formation of political parties, and then political parties started getting formed tailored towards regionalism and ethnocentrism, where you have the NC, Northern People's Congress from the north, Northern Elements Progressive Union from the north, you have the United Middle Belt Convention from the Middle Belt, you have the NCNC, the Action Group, and the rest. Now, these groups culminated into trying to see who will outwit who. The NCNC and the Action Group were led by sound intellectuals, media journalists of renowned recognition all over the world, Dr. Nnamdi Azikiwe and late Chief Obafemi Awolowo of blessed memory. Now, the North was educationally backward. But when it came to the issue of election, they saw the use of the number by democracy, as a result of which in 1957, Abubakar Tafawa Balewa got elected as the Prime Minister. But earlier on in 1956, Queen Elizabeth paid a visit to Nigeria. It met, and that time, Sir Ahmadu Bello, as the leader of the Northern People's Congress, said, no, as the leader, I wouldn't like to be the Prime Minister or to win the fruits of the descent. Let somebody from the minority tribe, somebody more intellectually exposed than me, somebody who was a former Minister of Foreign Affairs and permanent representative in the UN. He now brought about Abubakar Tafawa Balewa and decided to stay there. And then in 1959, the legislative elections too gave upper hand to the Northern People's Congress. So as a result of which this rivalry and the rest cropped up, and then we started having teething problems after the 1960 independence, which some few years thereafter it culminated into military overthrow in 1967 down to 1970, and which continued and claimed over 3 million lives and lasted for about 30 months. And at the end of it, on the 12th day of February 1970, we saw the end of the Civil War. And the end of the Civil War marked a watershed, because before the Civil War, Vice Republic nationalists were seeing it as a national duty, a cherished profession.
You need to make your history brief.
Yes. Politics was seen as a game of evolution of statesmen, evolution of people that will be the guardians of morality and the progression of the nation. Then that time they were united, and everything was done in harmony as common brothers. You will see them moving during all the constitutional conferences in London and what have you. They were moving in unity and purpose. Nigeria was their own thinking every day. When they are sleeping, their dream is common man. When they are meeting, they are putting heads together to see to the advancement of Nigeria, and that was the spirit. But immediately the military came, and for about 15 years of the military, we lost the focus and the direction of the statesmanship in the politicians. And then Second Republic came. Some of the few elements that remained in the Second Republic decided that who should become the president in Nigeria as well. As in the North, for example, under the NPC, we were having 4 candidates. Out of these 4 candidates, Professor Iya Abubakar.
We need to make it brief.
Yes, let me just summarize. Let me Tama Sule Damasan Nkano, Malam Adamu Chiroma, and let Ibrahim Gusau Sarki Malam Sokoto. Somebody that was aspiring to become a senator was immediately called, and he was considered to be the most suitable person at that time, in the person of Alhaji Shehu Shagari, a minister under the Balewa regime, and then got himself. Unfortunately, the Second Republic did not last long, just within a period of 4 years and
let me
3 months.
Second Republic.
Yes.
We'll come to other perspectives. I love the history of this.
Yes.
Let's go to Benin. We'll still come back to you to conclude on that, because the history is quite vast, and it will help us bend backwards to bounce forward towards where we are. So you stopped at Second Republic.
Yes.
Beautiful. Now let's go to Professor Eragbe. Professor Eragbe, you heard from the opening thoughts of General IBM Haruna. 2 clear statements he made. Besides what Kogo has said, he looked at a generic picture of where Nigeria came from to where we are, and he used the words that even at 60, Nigeria is still crawling. We are yet to run. What's your take on this?
Well, I want to thank you for having me with you this evening. Just by way of proper documentation, I am actually a professor of history and international studies and diplomacy, and I'm the immediate past dean of the Faculty of Arts. So the current dean will not think that I'm still trying to hang on to power. Right on to the points that have been made, I want to also this evening say, just as we are getting to celebrate our 60th Independence Day anniversary, it brings to the fore again the importance of teaching history to our citizens, because as rightly captured by the general, retired, it is that we must know where we're coming from, the problems and challenges we've been facing, the successes we have had, and then those definitely can guide us as we try to navigate forward to be a great nation. The fact is that Nigeria has actually had its great moments, as captured by the general again, in terms of potentials. By the time we became independent in 1960, we had a lot of expectations as a people. And don't forget that there is this title that we have been using for quite some time, which has been the giant of Africa. And that has to do with the resources we have, our population, and of course, the great things that we've been doing as a nation, which has been exhibited clearly in the international arena. One or two things I want to put in context so that we can understand the challenges we're having of nation building is that it's not quite the correct picture to say that Nigerians were living harmoniously together before independence or before the coming of the British, so to speak. The fact is that, like many other parts of the world, in this part also, different kingdoms, empires and all were emerging, and a good number of them came by way of conquest. And that is important for us because today, when we are trying to talk about the fact of how to move ahead within the context of the issue of restructuring and all of that, we sometimes we're trying to create the impression that there were these homogeneous blocks, three major and other minority ones that were in place. But the fact is that we can say from a historical perspective that the coming together of these major blocks as we see them today has been as a result of trying to negotiate within the Nigerian state. And so, how have we been doing? It is that we started on a negotiating slate by which, when constitutions were being given to us by the British, we had disagreements, and then constitutional conferences had to be held. And in those constitutional conferences, different regions were now being represented. And we must bear in mind that on the eve of our independence, there was the minority question, which even led to the commission being set up, where some believed that they were not going to be taken care of within the Nigerian nation, since major groups were going to dominate in different regions. And so, one major problem that Nigeria is still contending with today, which has been resonating in most of the discussions and even conferences that have been taking place, including the 2014 conference, where I was privileged to be a member, because that is the one that was put together in Abuja, has been how do we really stay together as a people? That has been a major debate. And in addition to that, is that in terms of social infrastructure, meeting the needs and expectations of Nigerians, unfortunately, while we seem to have made major achievements, taking great strides in terms of education, in terms of health, in terms of roads and others, what we are seeing, unfortunately, is that there is an element of retrogression, which is quite disturbing. And we are talking of the good old days. For our elders that are in place, they want to say, oh, when we were in school in those days, we have functional laboratories. We have educational systems that could produce people that could compete anywhere in the world. Our hospitals were functional, and we could perform major operations and things of that nature. Our roads were okay, but where are we today? And then, our constitutional provision has always recognized the fact that, as I have mentioned, we have challenges of nationhood, and there is a provisions deliberately put there to see how we can integrate and build a united nation, a united country. But unfortunately, what do we have today? Different groups are there dominating the Nigerian political space. With due respect, you are hearing the Arewa, you are hearing Afenifere, you are hearing Indigbo, and many others. And that was not the dream of I'm sure, of the founding fathers of our nation. It was that we will, while recognizing our differences, build a united, strong nation where though tongue and all might differ, we will work strongly together. And that is why, for example, we find that in our constitutional provision, federal character matter were built in so that no section we felt to be left out. But is that the feeling today that everybody is being carried along? Then also, in terms of providing for the people, that is meeting the needs and aspirations of the people, employment and many others, there is no doubt that the government is doing a lot to address the problems.
Professor Ragbe, I'll come to you to sustain your position. Let me hold you there for now. I'll come back to you, please. Let me quickly introduce Dr. Kayode Ajulo, lawyer, joining us via Zoom in Abuja. Good to see you on the program tonight. In London, please. He joined us via Zoom in London. Good to see you via Zoom tonight.
Well, my pleasure. Thank you very much.
Please, I'll come back to you. Let me go to Enugu. I'll come back to you immediately. Thank you very much. Now, from Enugu, we have Mazi Okoro Ejoma. Mazi Okoro Ejoma is a professor of history, journal from Enugu Network Center. Mazi Okoro, you have heard the opening thoughts on the program tonight, and so far so good. Professor Ragbe is talking about elements of retrogression, yet we are still together 70 years. Despite all the teething problems, we are still together as a country. What's your perspective?
Well, first and foremost, I want to strike a compromise by what my colleague in Benin and a previous speaker about the Nigerian peoples before the imposition of British rule. One has said they lived in love, in amity, and so on. I think there was some truth. There's some truth about that. That there were ties that bound the people together. You had the rivers, you had all sorts of things, and the products, the economic ties we had. But that it was also not where people didn't have their differences. And some of those differences we have seen. So much has also been said about the amalgamation. Today is not for amalgamation. And my colleague who had just spoken will remember that we did hold a conference in 2014 regarding the house that Lugard built, that is the amalgamation. And we pointed out some of the problems we have had. And I wish I knew a country that did not have or does not have problems, challenges. As the previous speakers have said, we have had our challenges. Part of it, or majorly, misrule. I think people talk of corruption, talk of restructuring and so on. But the central issue, the critical issue, is that, as Bishop Coker has said, the politicians have not done well enough. But we cannot say that we just cancel that nothing has happened. A lot has happened. Some have tried. But I wish we had the political sagacity, which our forebears, Zik, Awolowo, Tafawa, Balewa, Madu Bello, the type of spirit of compromise which they had. Today, there's so much bitterness among our politicians. And everybody is saying that we must treat them with cautious optimism because they promise they would give us all the good things of this life. At the end of the day, we don't seem to get so much of those promises. You have so much selfishness. We are not thinking so much of what happens to the young ones, the unemployed youth, and the degradation of life in the Niger Delta and even around the country. A part of the problem we have in the Northeast is also the degradation of humanhood. People have not been able to people have not been just. They've not shown fairness. The resources of the country have not been equitably distributed, and that has created a lot of problems. Having said so, I wish I knew a country that is perfect. We have had our own challenges, and we can still do better by harnessing our resources, by also making sure that we show justice, we show fairness. How can we show justice and fairness? It's only by the equitable distribution of our resources, not being selfish as we find in our body politic today. So I would say that we've not done well enough. We must tell ourselves the truth. And some of the greatest problems we have emanate from the politicians. And we, the followership, have also not done well enough because we tempt the politicians, and in so doing, many of them succumb. No, my colleague and myself, I'm not sure we've done well enough. That's the elite. So these are some of the problems we have. And all that we need to do is to enter into a sensible dialogue.
Mazi Okoro, I'll come back to you on that. Let me hold you there for now and quickly go back to London, where Dr. Kayode Ajulo joined us tonight. Dr. Kayode Ajulo, I'm sure you have followed through the trend so far, and 60 years on, 30 years, we have heard, so we just heard from Mazi Okoro talking about there was so much political sagacity. So what's your own opening thoughts regarding 60 years of Nigeria's nationhood after independence?
In trying to make a perspective, particularly about Nigerian independence and where we're coming from and where we are today, I think the first thing, irrespective of what many may say, is first to congratulate ourselves that for the past 60 years we still remain as one. Because by the time you look at the indices, the fundamentals that makes Nigeria what it is, one can easily prophesy that we are not supposed to be talking and sitting down today as Nigeria. Mind you, are we going to talk about population? Today we have over 200 million Nigerians, and which is about a quarter of the entire population in Africa. And when we talk of the resources, when we talk of our people, we have done so great. And by the time you check our history by what some of the panelists today has been able to mention, you will realize and you find out that it is that Nigerian is prepared not to be where we are today. Are we going to talk about tribalism? Today, many people will say that it is now tribalism has been on. But by the time you take back to history, one of what the British used to play us against each other is this tribalism. That means that tribalism has been on for long. And many other issues. So for us to still remain as one today is something that worth celebrating. And as we are doing that, I think we need to take reflection from where we are coming from. How do we be? How was we fed, and what is the next? I think that's one of the things we need to discuss. That in the next, after 60 years, though many people will tell you that for a man to be 60, he must have come of age, he must have been able to now stand properly. I'm not saying we should use that as an excuse of inefficiency and what is happening in our country, but it is the best way to know where we are coming from, what have been the problem, then we can now move forward to now say, from now, this is what we're going to fix. Yes, there are many things in our law. As a lawyer, that is one of the things that I'm more interested in. That if it's well implemented, we will not have any problem about some of the issues. When somebody is talking about ethnic domination, in our law, we have good provisions that need to take care of that. But the question is that are we as Nigerian, even as government, both Nigerian people and government, have we be able to really ensure that we follow that in total? Then again, even our political the way our political experiment, even particularly democratic experiment, in as much that this is the best, we as Nigerians be able to really follow the tenet of democracy to be able to say, yes, it's you. Then if you now go to the issue of economy, particularly about the crime, about corruption, yes, today some people will tell you that corruption is on one side or not. I need to say this today from the little I know about this country. Corruption is everywhere. And when it comes to issue of corruption, it knows no bounds, it's no tribe, it's no religion, nothing. It is about who is dealing with Nigeria. These are the things I believe we need to really check. These are the things I believe that we need to look. Because discussing what happened before, yes, if you don't know your history, then you don't know where you're going. We need to know that history, and knowing that history is for us to know how we need to continue to live. 60 years has passed. In the next few days, again, we'll be talking of 61, 62, 63, 70. What we should be asking today is, where are we going to be by next year, by the next few decades again? These are the things I believe we need to say. And that's why I really need to raise this issue. Before, as a young man, I used to hear about Vision 2010, Vision 1990, or whatever it is. Today, we seem not to have any vision again. I don't know what our government is doing about that, because it is when you plan, when there's a foundation, you cannot know this is where you are getting to. But today, it seems that nobody planned again. It seems that we just do it the way it comes our way. And these are the things I think we should have issue with. Today in UK today, the election will soon be on. You'll be surprised that they will tell you that for the past 15 or 16 years, they prepare for that election. But until when election is about 2 or 3 days, that's when we'll be running up and down in Nigeria to know, let us do this, let us do that. These are the things I believe we need. I really appreciate what I've had so far. Is that even today, I should even sit back to listen to history. But I think we need to really face the reality and to know how to move our nation forward.
Dr. Ajulo, and those are our opening thoughts on the program. If you're just joining us, we're taking a look at Nigeria at 60, challenges and the way forward. And the course of the program, shall be bringing you a couple of reports, and as soon as those reports are ready, we'll start taking them. Our first report, if it is ready, is coming from Abuja in sustaining the conversation tonight.
It is to the glory of God and in celebration of the attainment of the diamond age of 60 by our great nation that I hereby unveil the prepared anniversary logo for this momentous occasion in our national history.
With a deep feeling of national pride, President Muhammadu Buhari also announced that together shall be the theme of Nigeria's 60th anniversary celebration.
Our founding fathers, in spite of the differences in faith, tribe, and tongue, came together to fight for Nigeria's independence. This shall be a befitting tribute to the struggles of our heroes past.
The theme, the president emphasized, will keep the nation united and help the citizenry forge ahead, while the logo, a product of choice from the Nigerian people, forms the critical pillars which the modest commemorative activities will rest on. The neatly encrusted diamond on the nation's map, President Buhari said, symbolizes Nigeria's age of treasure, while the pear and dark green colors remind Nigerians of their warmth, welcoming spirit and love, as well as the abundant human and natural resources.
As we celebrate this anniversary, this government will work towards greater inclusiveness and look forward to the participation of all Nigerians.
For the chairman, Interministerial Committee on the Anniversary Celebration and Secretary to the Government of the Federation, Boss Mustafa, the historic event is just the beginning of the various commemorative activities expected to last 11 months.
The preference for a year-long celebration is to create opportunities for ownership and ensure that the edifying elements of our nation are made to propel our various individual and collective action. Therefore, post-October 1st activities to engage the private sector and the ordinary Nigerian will be the focus of the interim ministerial committee.
Celebrating 60 years of Nigeria's independence without doubt calls for pomp and pageantry. But the federal government says with the COVID-19 pandemic forcing the global community to think and act differently has also foisted on the nation the imperative of a low-key celebration.
In sustaining the conversation, the next report is coming from Lagos.
The British government assumed the direct control of the Niger Royal Company's territory, the northern area, as was renamed the Protectorate of Northern Nigeria, and the land of the Niger Delta along the lower trenches of the river, was added to the Niger Coast Protectorate, which was renamed Southern Nigeria. Lagos, renamed capital of the South, and Zungeru, the new capital of the North. On January 1st, 1914, following the recommendations of Sir Frederick Lugard, two protectorates were amalgamated to form the Colony and Protectorate of Nigeria under a single Governor-General in Lagos. Between 1919 and 1954, the title reverted to Governor following Lugard's success in the North. He set out the principles of the administrative system, subsequently institutionalized as indirect rule. Essentially, local governments were controlled by traditional chiefs who were subjected to the guardians of European officers. Native institutions were utilized, and interference with local customs by colonialists was kept at a minimum. While the system had built-in contradictions over the years, the country developed a sophisticated form of local governance. To what extent has the colonial legacies been able to influence governance in a 21st century Nigeria?
I will not categorically say that these are a bequeathed legacy of colonialism, but I think colonialism actually played a role in that respect, in many, in a whole lot of respect in terms of Africa's history of development, Africa's history in terms of governance.
Because there's no way a man from the north will go and rule over people in the south. There's no way people from the south will go and rule over people from the north. It could only have been possible through democratic means. Otherwise, the Oba of Benin will rule over Benin, not even the Edo State, just Benin. Only of Ife will rule over just Ife. And also we have very many kings as they were. But today, with that democracy, we have just one president overseeing the entire country.
Analysts suggest that a more robust approach to governance that reflects the true yearnings of citizens is required for Nigeria to achieve a potential among the Committee of Nations.
Those are the reports, and clearly it has sustained the perspective on the course of discussions, and a couple of tweets came in. Just before we go on break, let's take a couple of them. And the first one, which I will allow General IBM Haruna to address, is coming from Saleh Baba. It says, with due respect to the discussants, where we are coming from seems to be better than where we are going today, where we are today. Why is it that we grow older as a nation, we become weak and unproductive? How do you react to this? Giving the way forward.
Well, first of all, I don't agree with his statement that where we are coming from is better than what we have arrived at, so on and so forth. I think that where we are coming from is so much different from where we are. And the challenges of where we are coming from are not the challenges we are facing today.
Okay.
The challenges from where we are coming from, you can say historically from slavery, from colonialism, from ignorance, but from a studied existing cultural existence. So where we have arrived at is a situation where there is freedom, there is liberty from slavery, there is some certain amount of expression of democracy, and liberty of conscience and so on. I think what we have now as a major challenge is the crisis of sovereignty. How sovereignty is expressing itself on the impact of the liberties and freedoms and social contracts which we have entered to form our constitution and to give us the leeway for self-examination, self-criticism in order to solve this crisis of sovereignty of the people, the freedom of the people, the contract amongst the people as equals, as expressed in the Constitution, which must be maintained by the rule of law and equality before the law. So the crisis we have manifests itself from the way governance is conducted and from the way that people are struggling to make sure that the presumptions and assumptions of their subordination, for example, to a structure of governance and structure of authority that were presumed because of colonialism, because of feudalism, because of whatever historically had oppressed people, are now being rationalized such that the existing civilization allows people to express themselves and to express their wishes and to challenge the status quo. And this is find itself in our wish, for example, to restructure the Nigerian state, to examine some of the contents in the social contract, to look at the sharing of power between the structures. So it is a struggle that we have to face in order to to go forward. And I've had in the earlier discussion my friend here who said North was educationally backward. And I think that when we make these statements, we should examine what is the content and the expectation of education. For centuries, the northern administration or the oligarchy or the requirements of the society in the north that were more pertinent to examination had their system of education. The education provided for the needs the education had to satisfy. Okay. Today we are in a different frame of expectations and the ends of education, and we have to look at what is the need in our present civilized state and expectations that education should match, because the education of centuries gone or colonial past or feudal past is not the requirement for a digitalized, modern, what you may call civilized culture, okay, or more universal culture. So we have to make this statement with a little of reservation and to face, and if we don't do that, we may miss structuring our education for the needs of now and tomorrow and more years to come, and be examining things in the past cultural setting or past expectational setting. Okay. I think we have to solve the issues that face us now to go forward. How do we solve? How do we maintain a social contract that shares power and sovereignty amongst the people, their representative, and the structures that make the systems of government?
Okay. Thank you so much. Let's go to Benin. Kugo, I'll come to you. Professor Eragbe, the next tweet is coming from Taribo, and if you listen clearly to it, I want to put it across to you and see how you react to it. It is not just about 60 years. Yes, congratulations, Confetti Ball. But then, what have we achieved so far? You would agree with me that as at the time we celebrated our 59 years, and now there has been a lot of changes. Take, for instance, the price of goods and commodities. How do you react to these tweets?
Thank you very much. I think a program like this definitely cannot help us to, in depth, examine the different aspects of our national experiment. But the point that we are trying to make here is that for us as a nation, we have definitely made some positive impact as far as the international system is concerned. And then we look around us, just like the general was saying, where we used to be educationally, how many people were there with Western education when we got our independence, how many universities or schools did we have, literacy level, what was it? We know where we are today. To that extent, we are making some positive strides. But the point that has been raised by that tweet, which I agree with, is what really is the standard of living today for the majority of Nigerians. That is the issue that is really very disturbing for us as a nation. When we hear the trillions of naira, trillions in foreign currency when we are converting to dollars that have been expended, that we do spend or actually use every year, now an average of about 10 trillion naira a year by way of budget. We know that the whole money is not there. And then you look at the lives of the average citizen, it calls for question. Then, of course, we must know as a people that economic prices of commodities and all are determined by what we call economic factors of demand and supply. Are these things available or not? And once we have not been producing most of the things that we require, and we have to import, then, of course, prices are bound to escalate or go up. Where are we today? This is one of the greatest disappointments I have seen for us as a nation, that we've had oil. We discovered it. We started exporting about 1955, talking from Olobiri and all of that. We built refineries, and they were working. What really can be the justification that today all our refineries are down, and we are being told that we must continue to import petroleum products, and then that market forces should determine the price of those things, and the citizens whose income has remained almost stagnant, and after long deliberations, there has been a minimal improvement in what is supposed to go there. And as we speak today, just yesterday we're hearing that some states have not even started implementing the minimum wage. We are now seeing a situation where prices are spiraling up because of such things as the increases in petroleum costs. Why are our refineries not working as a nation? It is one of the reasons why, in spite some nations that don't even have what we have, they are the people we are importing things from. It calls for real deep introspection, and we must try to address such things. And in the same country, there is so much disparity in terms of what the small elite, just like Professor was mentioning now, my colleague, small elite that are corner the resources of this nation, while the bulk of the citizens are in abject poverty and penury. It is not acceptable. We should be working to be like some of the other nations where there is better, equitable distribution of the resources of the nation. We have been crying over time. Look at universities, for example, the public universities, even as we speak today, they declared a strike since about March. We are now in the month of September. Nobody seems to be addressing that matter. And what is going to happen? We are being told now that COVID is now going to allow universities to reopen. The next thing again is going to be that it is now when universities, the COVID thing has moved, that agreements will be coming up which will not be kept to. There are certain fundamental things that have made our system to seem not to be working. And then the health sector. Daily, we are hearing, as just Monday, that Johansson had to call off strike. Doctors always on strike. Today, as a nation at 60 years old, let it be that when government get into agreement with its different workers, that such things are implemented, so that we can reduce these things that seem to ridicule the achievements that we have made so far. Because we have many institutions today, but they are almost not functional. They work for about 3 months. They are short for about 6 months. And we are always making, it's not the best thing for us.
Thank you. Let me hold there for now. The next tweet from Abba Hainan is a complimentary to all of us in the program. A very good evening to you all in the studio. My special greetings goes to Barrister Nasara Kogo, whom I'm seeing as my role model. May God make Nigeria witness Nigeria at 60. May God take all of you back to your destination safely. Message from our Kasim. That's a compliment. I'll still hold you, Kogo. Let me take this tweet to Dr. Kayode Ajulo. Dr. Kayode Ajulo, the next tweet talks about the fact that it's coming from Abdul in Gombe. Federal government needs to force governors to allow local governments to function independently if we need progress, peace and development to persist in Nigeria. Quickly, please.
Thank you very much. I think I am so elated when I learned that General IBM Aruna talked about constitution and constitutionalism and talked about social contract. I think all this has to be with our social contract as a contract the government and the people has together. And this is being escapulated and being expressed in the constitution. So it's always beats me hollow whenever I listen to the fact that the state government or the federal government has to be compelled or has to be begged to do what is a simple provision of the constitution. And that one comes to what actually the issue of this national interest. Which interest are we even saying we are trying to serve? Is it the national interest or selfish interest? It is so clear, and I believe for anybody to come out to say, I want to contest I want to be the governor, I want to be elected officials, it must be within the ambit of the law and within what we agreed upon. And that is why I always believe, that's why when you see some of us really always advocate that the election should count, because the only way to serve as a measurement of anybody, as more or less to okay anybody should be when it comes to issue of election. But today, unfortunately, elections seem not to count. That's why we believe that it should count. And I believe until when that won't happen, that's when anybody can say that whatever we agreed upon is what we complemented. It is so surprising that today, the president really needs to issue executive order to ensure that some governors has to do what the constitution has provided for, like for the issue of autonomous power for the legislature and the judiciary. And I believe it is high time we need to interrogate this, particularly when what we call, like I mentioned earlier, what we call selfish interest and national interest. Once we can clear this, half of our problem will be really solved. Because as at that time, we'll be able to know that this is what the people want. This is the aspiration of our Nigerian people. It will be against the aspiration of just few, which some people do call Kaba. That is the way it should be. The essence of democracy, the essence of local government is to the fact that government will get to the people, more to the people, closer to the people. But today, the state governors seem to take it the other way, and you see the same state governor complaining about the federal government lording over them. So it seems that at each level, we seem to have our own oppressor left and right, and this shouldn't be. The essence of governance is to ensure that everybody is taken care of, or even if they are not taken care of, by simple issues. Somebody mentioned standard of living some minutes ago. What ensure that standard of living should be is the fact that you take the yearning of the people, you listen to the aspiration, and that aspiration is being met. And that is what it is. But unfortunately, we've not been able to achieve that. And I believe that is why I said earlier that whenever we're talking of anniversary, should be a time for reflection to see where we are going, and what we intend to do. And I believe by the time we start doing this, then there will be a way out.
Ajulo, one of the things Mr. President said at the launch of the 60th anniversary logo was the need for greater inclusiveness. How do you achieve this?
Yes, we should achieve greater inclusiveness if we really embrace democracy as the model. Section 14 of Section 1 of our Constitution predicates that democracy is the system of governance we should operate. In other words, the will of the people should be sacrosanct. And when we are talking about the will of the people, we should really put all ethnocentric and other cleavages by the side. Constitutionally speaking, the Constitution talks about the interests and aspirations of the common man. And for the fact that you have been sworn in, for example, the president under section 130, you are the president of all Nigerians, the totality of all Nigerians. Now, the totality of all Nigerians means you should not allow any primordial consideration to influence the way you will appoint your ministers as per sections 147, 174, and 150 of the Constitution.
Okay, let me just hold you there.
Yes.
I told you at the beginning of the program that we shall be joining the United Nations General Assembly where the general debate is going on, and Mr. President Muhammadu Buhari is just about delivering his address on the floor of the United Nations. Let's join it.
Of the Federal Republic of Nigeria.
Mr. President, Heads of State and Government, Secretary General, distinguished delegates, ladies and gentlemen, let me, on behalf of the government and people of Nigeria, congratulate you on your to assure you of Nigeria's readiness to avail the United Nations all necessary cooperation needed for the fulfillment of your mandate. I wish to also thank the General Assembly for the support accorded His Excellency Tijani Muhammad Bande during his tenure as President of the 74th session of the General Assembly. We acknowledge the accomplishments of the Assembly under his able leadership, particularly his efforts on attacking global poverty through the Global Coalition on Poverty Eradication. We also commend the tremendous efforts of His Excellency Antonio Guterres, Secretary General of the United Nations, in steering the affairs of the organization during this challenging period of the coronavirus pandemic, as well as his strong commitment to making the United Nations more efficient and responsive in its international responsibility. Your Excellencies, distinguished delegates, it is my privilege to use this opportunity to congratulate member states on the 75th anniversary of the United Nations. Over the past 7 decades, the United Nations, as the People's Assembly, has helped to stabilize the global community. In addition to international peace and security, the United Nations has undertaken programs on poverty eradication, women's empowerment, youth development, and humanitarian emergencies. The theme of this year's General Assembly, the future we want, the United Nations we need, reaffirming our collective commitment to multilateralism, confronting coronavirus through effective multilateral action, is indeed most appropriate and timely, as it captures our common desire for a renewed and revitalized organization in need of multilateral approaches to the many challenges facing the world. As we reflect on the future we want and the United Nations we need, we must realize that the peoples of the world not only look up to us, they count on us. If the United Nations system cannot mobilize the world to marshal out a truly effective and inclusive response to the coronavirus pandemic, then the United Nations would have failed in its core mission of giving expression, direction, and solution to the yearnings of the international community. Excellencies, The future we want must guarantee human rights, human dignity, human prospects, and prosperity. The principles of leaving no one behind and doing no harm must be expressed through accountability, strategic growth initiatives, and elimination of threats of all kinds. In our quest to provide a future of hope and prosperity for Nigerians, our administration has embarked on measures to ensure enhanced national resilience. We intend to achieve this through the implementation of the Economic Sustainability Plan and the medium-term national development plans for the period 2020 to 2025 and 2026 to 2030. We expect that these ambitious initiatives will deliver sustainable economic growth and development to Nigeria. Predicated on the values that inspired its creation, the United Nations we need has to remain an agent of progress by giving expression to the tenets of multilateralism, solidarity, and international cooperation. It is within the context of this rules-based multilateral order that the world can find solutions to its many problems. The world is currently in the grips of the coronavirus pandemic. Regrettably, our communities and countries are losing lives. The coronavirus pandemic has devastated the world economy and strained the capabilities of the health system of many countries, including our own country. In the aftermath of coronavirus outbreak in Nigeria, we prioritize vulnerable groups, including women, children, old persons, and the unemployed in our efforts to provide medical and social assistance to cushion the socio-economic effects of the disease. Accordingly, we have expanded our National Social Register to include an additional 1 million Nigerians. Our National Social Investment Program has been the vehicle for reaching out to the poor and vulnerable members of the Nigerian population, as well as providing cover for over 22 million households. I use this opportunity to commend the efforts of the United Nations and the World Health Organization in combating the coronavirus pandemic. I note with appreciation the $2 billion United States dollars Global Humanitarian Response Plan launched by the United Nations Secretary General to fund the coronavirus response in the poorest countries of the world. I also commend his call for ceasefire in conflict areas to enable humanitarian assistance reach groups vulnerable to coronavirus. Excellencies, I should also state that Nigeria is committed to working with other member states in the spirit of global cooperation and solidarity to promote human health and general well-being. Nigeria will continue to partner with the World Health Organization and some countries to ensure accelerated development and manufacturing, as well as uninhibited supply of safe and effective coronavirus vaccines to all. In order to mitigate its impact on Nigerians, our administration has commenced the disbursement of the sum of 10.9 billion naira to households and micro, small, and medium enterprises as palliatives. In addition, we have established a 500 billion naira fiscal stimulus package and sustained delivery of humanitarian and social interventions to poor and vulnerable households, while our central bank has launched a 3.5 trillion naira stimulus package to boost manufacturing and facilitate import substitution. The international community will need to cooperate in addressing the scourge of poverty, particularly in developing countries. It is in this regard that we commend the President of the 74th General Assembly for launching an alliance for poverty eradication in June. We encourage global leaders, particularly leaders from the global north, to support the alliance at this time when the coronavirus pandemic is reversing gains made in the achievement of the 2030 Sustainable Development Goals and pushing an additional 500 million people into extreme poverty. Mr. President, as we mark the beginning of the United Nations Decade of Action for the implementation of the Sustainable Development Goals, Nigeria has made significant strides in domesticating the SDGs. There is an ongoing realignment of the national statistical system with the requirements and indicators of the SDGs. This is expected to ensure effective tracking and monitoring of the SDGs and guide SDG intervention across the country. Nigeria has also developed its homegrown integrated sustainable development goals model, an analytical framework for assessing how policy making can better address the indivisible nature of the SDGs. Excellencies, Nigeria remains deeply concerned over the illicit trade, transfer, and circulation of small arms and light weapons, particularly on the continent of Africa. We urge the international community to renew efforts to stem this traffic and promote the Arms Trade Treaty in order to codify accountability in the ongoing battle against trans-border crimes, including terrorism and acts of piracy. Excellencies, the litany of sophisticated terrorist attacks across the globe is a harsh reality of the challenges the world is facing today. We must therefore redouble our efforts to ensure collective security. In Nigeria, we are still facing violent extremism from the insurgency of Boko Haram and bandits. We continue to count on our strong cooperation with United Nations counter-terrorism bodies and neighboring countries to overcome the terrorists in the Lake Chad Basin and the wider Sahel region. We will vigorously sustain the rehabilitation, reconstruction, and resettlement of victims of terrorism and insurgency in the Northeast. The Northeast Development Commission has been established for that purpose. Mr. President, Nigeria is committed to universal nuclear non-proliferation. In this connection, we recall the adoption of the landmark treaty on the Prohibition of Nuclear Weapons, which opened for signature on 20th September 2017. Nigeria participated actively in the processes leading to its adoption and was an early signatory and ratifier. With less than 10 ratifications needed for the treaty on the prohibition of nuclear weapons entry into force, we urge other member states who have not done so to quickly ratify the treaty for the actualization of its important objectives. Excellencies, climate change is an environmental crisis which requires urgent action. Our administration is conscious of the fact that the attainment of national development targets would be greatly impeded unless the consequences of climate change are addressed holistically in line with the Paris Agreement. To this end, Nigeria has intensified climate action through the upward review of reduction in greenhouse gas emission under the nationally determined contributions, which are climate change targets under the Paris Agreement. Nigeria remains steadfast in our commitment to the revitalization of Lake Chad. We are convinced that recharging the lake will improve the living conditions of our people in the area, promote interstate cooperation, strengthen community resilience, and assist in addressing environmental and security challenges threatening the region and its resources. Let me therefore reiterate the call for international support for the sub-regional efforts to raise the 50 billion United States dollars required to actualize this initiative. Excellencies, Nigeria experiences high internal and external migration due to the size of its population, economic situation, and climate. We are therefore fully committed to migration management and prevention of irregular migration and human trafficking. I enjoin the international community to also communicate the positive contributions of migrants, particularly in countries of destination, in order to combat racial discrimination and xenophobic attacks and facilitate the social integration and protection of migrants. Mr. President, the global aspiration to recover from the impact of coronavirus pandemic will not be fully met without addressing existing structures that make it more difficult for countries to generate and retain their financial resources. It is in this regard that I thank the immediate past President of the General Assembly and the Economic and Social Council Ambassador Tijani Muhammad Bande and Ambassador Mona Jul, respectively, for jointly launching the high-level panel on international financial accountability, transparency, and integrity for achieving the 2030 agenda. Mr. President, in the area of human rights, Nigeria has passed a number of human rights-related bills into law. The bills include the Anti-Torture Act, the Comprehensive Treatment and Care for Victims of Gunshot Act, as well as National Senior Citizen Center Act. In addition, Nigeria has launched a national action plan for preventing and countering violent extremism. This measure is designed to strengthen institutions, coordinate the prevention of violent extremism, enhance the rule of law, access to justice and human rights, as well as engaging communities and building resilience and integrated strategic communication. Mr. President, the United Nations has made progress in advancing gender equality and women's empowerment through initiatives such as the Beijing Declaration and Program of Action and the Convention on the Elimination of all forms of discrimination against women. The creation of the United Nations entity for gender equality and empowerment of women in July 2010 was an important milestone. Nigeria acknowledges the importance of gender equality and recognizes the critical role that women play in development. We also recognize that the achievement of the Sustainable Development Goals and other international agreed development agenda depend largely on the empowerment of women. Nigeria will sustain its affirmative stance through women empowerment initiatives. Mr. President, quality education for all is the cornerstone of sustainable development. In this connection, I am happy to announce that the government of the Federal Republic of Nigeria will be hosting the 4th International Conference on Safe Schools in 2021. I invite you all to Nigeria to participate in the conference, which aims to advocate for the protection of education from attack as we work together toward the future we want. Mr. President, as we urge and strive for inclusion within our societies, we must also ensure inclusion prevails in our collective action as members of the international community. Nigeria supports the expansion of the United Nations Security Council to reflect the diversity and dynamics of the 21st century. Africa deserves permanent seats in the United Nations Security Council. Mr. President, I will conclude by reaffirming Nigeria's commitment to promoting international peace and security and sustainable development, as well as strengthening partnerships and cooperation with international and regional organizations. Thank you.
On behalf of the General Assembly, I want to thank
President Muhammadu Buhari's address to the 75th General Assembly of the United Nations debate session. And back to Tuesday Live, we'll just allow one of our guests speak to his address, then we'll return back to the topic of the day, starting with reports. So quickly, beginning with Kogo,
yes.
Let me allow you a few minutes to just react briefly to Mr. President's address. He looked at so many things, but in summary, human rights, poverty, recharging of the Lake Chad, safe schools, international financial accountability, and the last, gender equality, and the last point was the advocacy for Africa to have a permanent seat in the Security Council of the United Nations. So quickly, how do you react to that?
Yes, it's an excellent speech, and I really thank him very much, especially in talking about what we dearly need, that is the need for permanent seat in the UN. Countries all over the world, we are practicing democracy. In a situation whereby you have only 5 countries monopolizing the sea, with each of them having veto power, to whether the whole of the world decides or not. One country can really overturn the decision of every country is really anti-democracy. And I really love the way he really posited that Africa deserves a seat. Otherwise, we are a continent so big that we deserve even more than a seat. Nigeria, if you take, for example, Nigeria, Egypt and South Africa really deserve, in addition to countries like Brazil, India, Korea, Germany, Japan, Australia, and Switzerland. That is one. Secondly, I really appreciate the way he now talk about all the aspects of the UN Sustainable Development Goals, the efforts we are making. That is really commendable. I would like to talk on few areas that I expected him to have touched. One of the areas is democratization of the world economic order. So long we continue with this type of world economic system, whereby the Western world is the one dominating the World Bank and the IMF and world economic policies and the use of international currencies, so long Africa will remain underdeveloped. That is one. Secondly, I expected him to have spoken about the crisis in Mali. The crisis in Mali really needs international forces to come in because it is instigated by some figments of terrorism. And when you are talking of terrorism, it's a global phenomenon. And since it's a global phenomenon, it is important to be addressed at the level of the world body. The third one I expected him to have spoken about is the issue of the struggle in Western Sahara. Western Sahara is struggling for liberation against the domination of Algeria and Morocco. It is important for the totality of the African continent to really be liberated against all shackles of domination. I really appreciate the president too for talking about xenophobia, whether in South Africa, whether in Ghana. It is important we raise it there and we draw the attention of the world to really pass a resolution against that. And then I really expected him to have spoken and thank the world for allowing Nigeria to chair the 75th session of the United Nations General Assembly. Since Professor Mohamed Bande, this sitting today, this is his last exercise as the president of the world body. So I expected him as a leader of Nigeria to really thank on behalf of the people and the government of Nigeria and indeed the totality of Africa and Black world.
That would be fine for him, but I think he clearly appreciated the fact that Bande has served his term.
Exactly.
Let's go to Mazi Okoro in Enugu. Mazi Okoro, one of the concerns by Mr. President is the challenge he threw to the United Nations, where he said, if the United Nations cannot mobilize the world to marshal out a truly effective, inclusive response to COVID-19, then a number of things will happen. How do you react generally on Mr. President's speech?
In the area of COVID-19, I think the president and the country have done relatively well, and I think we should accept his statement to the United Nations. Back home, there was a frightening situation at the early part of the virus, and I think that Nigeria has done relatively well. The appointment of a task force chaired by no less a person than the Secretary to Government, with a number of top ministers in that task force. They've done reasonably well, and it's difficult now to say whether we are having a cough, but what we know today is that we are not faring worse than we had anticipated. Therefore, I think the statement to the United Nations about the COVID-19 is apt enough. It's apt enough. We've been quite effective, I would say, in that area.
Chair Mazi Okoro, and back to the program, we shall just take a few reports on Nigeria at 60, challenges and the way forward, and as soon as we are back, we go around all the guests to give us their thoughts on the way forward, Nigeria at 60. So let's begin with the report from Kaduna.
Prior to the subjugation of what later came to be known as northern region of Nigeria by the British colonial masters, there existed across the vast and richly endowed region well-established system of administrative leadership, defense, agriculture, and a thriving, vibrant system of commerce that linked North Africa, West Africa, and the Mediterranean societies of Europe and Asia. The vibrancy of these multi-sectoral systems, especially the administrative setups, according to documented accounts, were the motivation for the indirect rule system of governance resorted to by the colonial rulers in the northern region, thereby making the ruling class of the various kingdoms and chiefdoms strong pillars in the success of the colonial administration in the region. The gains arising from the colonial robust administrative capacity of the region accounted for the post-colonial political assertiveness northern Nigeria was able to muster in independent Nigeria, so that till date, the comparative political strength of the region has remained uncontestable.
If you are looking, making some retrospection on really what happened, we can learn from the colonial experiences, particularly with the issue of the current realities of governance and politics in Nigeria, I think we have to go back to 1945, because 1945 is a very significant period on trying to make a very analysis on what happened or what is happening, particularly on the issue of geo-ethnic politics in the body politics of Nigeria, because it emanated from that particular period, particularly with the promulgation of the Richard Constitution. The Richard Constitution was largely being orchestrated by the British in order to create division within the country.
Despite the obvious disadvantage of the moment, the Premier of the region, Ahmadu Bello, was able to mobilize his subjects and harness available resources, leading to reshaping the destiny of the northern region.
And he also tried to, bring the North at par with other sections of the country, educationally, industrially. He boosted the civil service by sending many, of our young northerners of that time to study abroad so that they could come back and take up positions in the civil service to replace foreigners, expatriates at that time.
As Nigeria marks 60 years of nationhood, observers are of the belief that the sacrifices of the first generation nationalists remain the surest guide to a more promising Nigeria.
Our next stop is Calabar.
The capital of Cross River State in today's Nigeria, was known before 1914 as the capital of the Southern Protectorate. One of the most prominent edifices that will present to any tourist or historian a picture of the city in its past as a one-time seat of administration is the old Residency, otherwise known as Government House. This building is now accommodating relics for the National Museum and Monuments. The old Residency building was fabricated in Britain in 1884 and erected at Old Calabar to accommodate British administration of the Niger Coast territories. The building was also known to be the seat of the Oil River and Niger Coast Protectorate.
Most of the decisions that we are taking about Nigeria were taken in this building. So this building played a very important role in the history of Nigeria. Starting from the time of slave trade, Calabar played a very important role in the history of slave trade because Calabar was a trading point.
During the era of slave trade, the Calabar waterways was a major exporting route used by the European traders, and investigations reveal that out of the over 2,000 slaves that were traded out of Africa between 1690 and 1807, about 3.1% of them emanated from Calabar. Other notable features in Calabar is the Marina Port, which was popular as the exit and entry point to the then mainland part of Cross River State. Today, it is still being used as a ferry port to get to Oron in Akwa Ibom State. All these landmarks, according to observers, assisted in shaping today's administrative Nigeria.
The very next one is Enugu.
has shown that colonial imperialism was responsible for initially laying the foundation of good governance and consolidating the modernization paradigm in Nigeria. The British came in and transformed the local processes of governance, as it were, because people were governing themselves before the colonial masters came and changed a lot of programs. Some great historians and stakeholders in Enugu State believe that the colonial experiment actually tried to perfect British administration and the process of governance in Britain, Western Europe, and Northern America. They maintain that Nigeria's first leaders after independence, including Michael Okpara, Ahmadu Bello, and Obafemi Awolowo, brought a lot of development and imbibed the principle of administration as inherited from the British and invented new ideas on how to combine the British experiences with the cultural beliefs.
Our people at that time that were rigorously schooled in the norms and doctrines of British governance actually perceived and understood those programs. They were running very well. If you assess the first leaders after independence, you can find out that many of them did very well.
A very good experience and worthwhile hope that future will be better.
They, however, named lack of proper integration of the learning process from the Western Europe, lack of proper understanding of the things inherited from Britain, as well as taking some of Nigeria's cultures for granted, as some factors that may undermine the country's efforts at forming a formidable force on points of civilization.
For us to revive what we are doing, first of all, we'll come back to education. We'll be able to program curriculum that is totally different from what we are doing.
On the way forward, the respondents advocated that an emergency meeting of intellectuals in various fields be called, where they would make genuine contributions which would advise the policy formulation process in the country. In Enugu, Chineye Nwoye.
Those were other reports from Kaduna, Calabar, and Enugu in sustaining the discussion tonight, looking at challenges and the way forward, Nigeria at 60. Let me begin from London, where Dr. Ajulo joined us from. Dr. Ajulo, by way of conclusion, what, in your few words, do you recommend the way forward for Nigeria as we move on as a nation?
We've discussed that earlier. Like what I said, it is about social engineering. It is about what Nigeria needs, and today, if there should be a plebiscite, if there should be a referendum, what matters most is that the agitation of Nigerian people is that there is a need for restructuring of Nigeria. And when I talk about restructuring of Nigeria, it is not about saying that Nigeria, there must be a way where everybody should go their own way, but there must be a way that everybody's interest has to be taken into consideration. Today, we can see some skirmish, some restlessness left here and there. It is more of as a result of the fact that some part of this country believe that their interest is not being taken care of again. That's why we're saying that. But in a way that we can have it, even if we allow the Constitution to work as it is, I believe such issue will be a thing of the past. I think Nigerian government need to reassure Nigerian people that they have a stake in this country and all their interests will be taken care of. Once we have this, every other thing is easy as anything. I think that is the basic thing we need to start from. Nigerians need to know that they are members of this country. Nigerian people need to know that this country is theirs, and that is from there the issue of patriotism will be there. Today, most of Nigerians don't even believe that it's another people ruling their country, and that is why you see some people who say it's their government, it is their car, it is their business. They don't see it more or less as a collective things that we all own. And I believe it is the duty of government to reassure Nigerian people, particularly those who are agitating now, to say, yes, you will be taken care of. We are together. And with that, you'll be surprised that Nigeria will continue to be giant of Africa that we want it to be. Thank you.
Kayode Ajulo, it was nice having you on Tuesday Live. Dr. Kayode Ajulo joined us via Zoom in London. Thanks so much for being on Tuesday Live tonight. Now, Professor Eragbe, just we know we had teething problems and a lot of drawbacks, but we are just saying, as a nation, our indivisibility remains sacrosanct. So the way forward, in your few words, by way of closing thoughts. What's the problem? Okay, we lost the sound from Benin. As soon as the sound audio is restored, we'll get back to Benin. And let's go to Mazi Okoro. Mazi Okoro, by way of conclusion, what's the way forward?
For our sense of values. Yes, there is corruption in high places. The elite doesn't seem to give us what we want, including myself as a university professor. There is everywhere people are talking about education. There's so much, we have a proliferation of universities, and I do not think that is what we want. We need to expand the facilities in the existing universities. We need to equip those universities. We need to improve facilities, material and human, in the existing universities. We don't need more universities for now. And we should reduce misgovernance, because that is the problem where people are clamoring for more states, more local governments and all that. There's so much of misrule. If we can improve on some of those things, our sense of values, I think Nigeria will continue to be, Nigeria will be great and achieve a nationhood. Everybody tells me that we are yet to achieve a nationhood.
Thank you so much, Mazi Okoro Ijeoma, Professor of History. He joined us from Enugu Network Center.
Yeah.
General IBM Haruna, let's take your perspective in conclusion.
Well, in conclusion, I would say that moving on in the 60s of our independence, we need to demonstrate some foresightness and take some preemptive action or legislation to bring about the much talked about justice and equity. Initiative, I note, is already being taken by the legislature to review our constitution for amendment, and I think that we can preemptively take on other discussions that will solve the crisis which we see, which we have experienced about the structure, the local government, the distribution of power, whether we need the three-tier system of government, and whether the presidential system will harbor us well in the future. And certain basic laws that need to be examined, like the Land Use Act that was smuggled into a constitution. But as I said earlier, we are in the crisis of sovereignty, the dialogue on sovereignty. If the people are sovereign, how is that sustained in our fundamental law and distribution of powers, the various rights and powers that can be exercised? I think the Breasted Constitution can be interrogated for certainty, and therefore certain actions should be taken to amend them so that we are more certain of stability, growing economy, and progress that will sustain not just the social contract, but the future of generations to come.
Okay. Let's go back to Benin. Professor Iragbe is back. Professor Iragbe, we lost your signals from you. I just asked then that as much as we have teaching problems, drawbacks, but the indivisibility of Nigeria remains sacrosanct. So by way of conclusion, what is the way forward? Briefly.
One, I think that there should be greater commitment to helping to secure our nation. As we speak today, we know that just like Mr. President mentioned just now in his address to the United Nations, terrorism is there, the banditry thing is there, kidnapping is there. All of this is making this nation quite insecure. Number two, we have said that there is the provision where there should be deliberate effort to make every person have a sense of belonging in our nation. And that is why the federal character provision in our constitution tried to emphasize that there should be nothing that should be done to make any section feel that is being neglected or any section feel that is dominating others. So we are calling for greater commitment to working for the unity of our country. Number three, and this is very important for the social amenities of our country or social services of our country, there should be this greater respect for agreements. And that will mean that our educational sector should be revitalized, respected. The health sector should be revitalized and respected. Agreements that have been entered into in those regards should be pursued in such a way that the incessant strikes that tend to pull down those systems should be arrested. And actually, and finally, let it be that in the distribution of the wealth of this nation, there is greater equity, access for all Nigerians, so that every person will have a sense of belonging. Although I said it was the last, but what just happened in Edo State, that is last Saturday to Sunday, whereby we can talk of the consolidation of our democracy. It is important that as we move ahead after 60, that Nigerians should be seeing and believing that their democracy as instituted is one that really believes in the people and gives them the chance to give the mandate to those that they want, just as was exhibited in what just happened in Edo State. And that will mean consolidation of our democracy, giving the people a sense of who should rule them. And when the people in charge know that they are accountable to the people, then of course we know that the leaders will be better disposed in pursuing policies that will touch the lives of our nation and our people. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Professor Edie Iragbe, immediate past Dean, Faculty of Arts, University of Benin. He joined us from Benin Network Center. It was nice having you on Tuesday Live tonight. Thank you.
It's been my pleasure, and I wish all Nigerians happy independence. That is, of course, October 1st. Thank you.
Thank you so much. And back here, Ms. Nasara Kogo, your last words and conclusions, please.
Yes, in Nigeria, until son of nobody, without knowing anybody, without giving anything to anybody, without subduing himself to anybody, becomes somebody as a bona fide citizen of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. We'll never get it anywhere. And we can only get that one when the elites decide to subjugate themselves under the whims and caprices of the common man, who constitute the majority in our populace. And that is the essence of democracy. So long we neglect this, we'll continue to have educational institutions without knowledge. We'll continue to have hospitals without medicines. We'll continue to have population without productivity. We'll continue to have democracy without service. We'll continue to have politics without civility. And we'll continue to have money without value. Nigeria seriously needs to recalibrate the quality of the people leading us. And we need to really seriously change the system of recruitment. This, what do I call it? This type of democratic system we are running is capital intensive. It's too much sided towards more or less like a game of investment for the politicians to enrich themselves with the sweat of the common man. We need to change this serious system whereby a winner takes all, you go and steal whatever, and so long you have the money, you can hire the most sophisticated lawyers to go and defend you, and at the end they will not have any merit in pursuing your case. So politics should be seen as a game of matriculating statesmen statesmen that will govern the nation in the interest of the patriotic citizens, not a situation whereby you have politicians that are only interested in themselves. We need to really change these systems. There is nothing wrong with our own political setting. All those that are calling of 2014 conference, national conference, blah, blah, blah. The Constitution is abundantly clear on how to solve all our problems. If we take sections 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, sections 12, section 15, section 16, section 17 of the Constitution, that is the summary of the solution of all our problems. You cannot have any national conference in pari passu with the existence of the National Assembly. Sections 8 and 9 of the Constitution has given the National Assembly the powers to amend the Constitution. So if you want any conference, go and check the quality of representatives you will be sending to the National Assembly. These are the ones that have the veracity and the power constitutionally to effect any change for the betterment of Nigeria. But otherwise, so long you don't do that, so long we allow money to determine our political compass, so long we allow good parallelism, so long we allow affinity to determine those you will give positions, so long we will not get it, and so long we will continue to suffer, and so long we will lose democratic values and eventually the value of human existence in the world. So we need to really change, we need to develop statesmanship, we need to develop people that have the interests and aspirations of the common man, people that believe that leadership is a trust. It's a trust given to you by the people. It's a trust that you will be accountable before God, because you are not beautiful than anybody. You are not from any better background. You don't have better strength. You don't have better money. You don't have anything better than anybody. You are just selected by the supreme deity to be his representative in entrenching natural justice on the land. And that is what we need. And so long we fail to consider that one, then we'll continue with this kleptonic type of contractocratic politics that we are seeing in Nigeria, which is really retarding us back instead of leading us to progression. Happy Nigeria's Independence Day. Thank you.
Thank you so much. May Nasra Kugo, lawyer and international affairs commentator, to having you on the program tonight.
It's my pleasure always to be with you.
And last but not the least, General IBM Haruna, former Minister of Information. It was nice having you on the program.
Thank you.
And once again, happy independence, Nigeria. But just before we go, latest report from the Nigeria Center for Disease Control shows that Nigeria recorded 176 new cases of coronavirus as at the 22nd of September 2020. Lagos has the highest number with 73, Plateau 50, while Bauchi, Bayelsa, Delta, and Nasarawa states have 1 case each. This brings the total number of confirmed cases to 56,613. Discharged 48,836 with 1,100 deaths so far recorded. That's the update on COVID-19. And on this note, we come to the end of Tuesday Live tonight. Thanks for watching.